Welcome to the 25th edition of Wrestling Roundtable Radio on blogtalkradio.com/Wrestling Roundtable, simulcast on WrestlingRoundtable.com and GoFightLive.tv. You can simulcast it yourself as well if you get the embedding code for the player at blogtalkradio.com/Wrestling Roundtable, our profile over there. You can share it on your website, blog, wherever you want to post it, and get everyone else involved. To share your thoughts and questions, please call 347-857-4647. Here live at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday nights after NXT, 8 p.m. on the West Coast, and about 4 in the morning in the UK, if you stay up that late. Of course, with all the work that I'm doing on Wrestling Roundtable, I do sometimes. I was just up till 5 in the morning the other night working on some stuff for you guys. So I hope you enjoy it. And one of the things coming up is we just taped our 50th video show, which covers the WWF's Invasion angle from 2001, something that you've been waiting for a long time for us to talk about. And we finally did on camera with a few surprises. Everyone turned out, it seemed, for this edition to celebrate, I guess, our 50th episode of Wrestling Roundtable. And also the newsletter. We want to remind you to sign up for the newsletter. There's exclusive content over there. In fact, if you got the newsletter earlier today to remind you to call in tonight, you would have gotten an exclusive attachment, file attachment of the new Roundtable flyer, which was all over Center Stage in Atlanta this past weekend. But while I'm mentioning some of the latest projects for Roundtable Creations, Wrestling Roundtable, Wrestling Road Diaries is out right now at cultmerch.com or WrestlingRoadDiaries.com. Documentary featuring the former United States champion in WWE, Daniel Bryan, back when he was Bryan Danielson on the Independents, along with the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion Colt Cabana and Sal Rinauro as they drove around performing on different indies across the country in what ended up being Bryan Danielson's final countdown tour. So that includes Ring of Honor, Chikara, AIW, and more. Not only that, that is just on the one-disc documentary edition. So if you spend just $5 more, you'll get the two-disc edition. Now, the documentary itself is 2 hours, 40 minutes, which sounds long, but come on. For an internet audience that spends money, good money, and it's beyond me that they do this, that spends their good money on 3-hour crappy one-camera shoot on a tripod in a hotel room shoot interviews with fucking noobs, I don't understand how you could spend your money on that. It's not like that at all. I think it's really going to blow you away. It doesn't feel like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and all the essential stuff is in there. I think you'll enjoy this look behind the scenes and on the road. However, as I mentioned, the two-disc set, if you spend $5 more, you will get even more content, over an hour worth of deleted scenes. So really, altogether, you're going to see almost about 4 hours worth of content on the road with these three indie wrestlers, and interviews, trailers, etc., etc. So like I said, Wrestling Road Diaries, getting a lot of good feedback so far, cultmerch.com or WrestlingRoadDiaries.com. Now today, we are going to focus completely on wrestling. So all you people who always complain about mixed martial arts, now a lot of our audience does enjoy mixed martial arts. Of course, we do, which is why we want to cover it. The real and the fake, so to speak, what wrestling would be like if it were real. But this week, well, I guess wrestling is the dirty word now in WWE, because WWE isn't even World Wrestling Entertainment anymore. I mean, they don't want to be called wrestling. Some would argue it's not even entertaining, but all the same, it's just WWE now, and it's going to be all wrestling. Sorry, Vince McMahon, we are not conforming to your Orwellian wordplay. This is wrestling, and it's going to be a wrestling-centric show. Mixed martial arts we will sit on for next time, and then it will explode. So if you like pro wrestling, this is your show. The biggest weekend of wrestling in the year, and we will cover it all. So, introducing the panel, our resident indie expert up first, Coriander Ake. Hello, Corey from Chicago.
Hello, Eric. Hello, everyone.
Will Vafides. Hello, Will.
As I predicted on WrestleMania night, The Miz is still the champion, and TLD is still on TLDWrestling.com. Hello, everybody.
that's jumping a little ahead of ourselves to WrestleMania, and I don't want to get that far ahead because part of the build-up to WrestleMania this year was releasing a documentary, WrestleMania: The True Story, that I touched upon a little last time, and we ran out of time. We were talking so much about the latest goings-on in mixed martial arts and pro wrestling that we ran out of time, and I didn't want to squeeze it in because I think this documentary deserved a lot more time than we would have been able to at the end of the show last time. So part of the hype, obviously, was to release this documentary, a retrospective 3-disc-wise, or if you got the Blu-ray, I believe it was 2, a look back at the past 26 WrestleManias or so, and I was all set to spend the money to get the Blu-ray because I haven't gotten any HD wrestling yet in my collection. In fact, I had put a freeze on buying wrestling DVDs the other year because eventually I was just starting to accumulate them without even watching them. There were a couple sets that I got that I didn't even open yet. It's embarrassing, waste of money, but I know people tend to do that with their DVD collections, and eventually I said, all right, no more. I'm not going to waste my money on this. I'm not even going to open it, blah, blah, blah. Just kind of burnt out on wrestling. But there's 2 exceptions on the horizon. First, I saw the WrestleMania True Story, and I was like, I own most of these on DVD already, but tempting to get them in Blu-ray, yes, all these matches. But the documentary is what we're going to talk about now. In case you're wondering, the other exception that I was going to make was the Best of Nitros that they're going to put out later this year, hosted by DDP. Turns out that's going to be the only exception because the week that it was coming out on Blu-ray, it being the WrestleMania True Story documentary, I saw it was on Netflix. And if you're a movie buff like me, you should definitely get Netflix. That aside, I was like, well, sorry, WWE, you just lost out on $20 right there because I'm just going to watch the documentary on Netflix. And I'm not even one of those people that usually look at, I want to get the documentary whenever WWE puts out a career retrospective or any sort of collection like that. I look at the match listing myself because I guess I've just kind of gotten used to the idea that the documentary portion is just going to be filtered with bullshit and whatever. I mean, even the WCW Rise and Fall DVD, as great as the Rise and Fall of ECW one mostly was, you're expecting something horrible, like they're going to do this Ultimate Warrior-esque paint job on WCW. It ended up just being really boring. But this one is one that I think we really need to talk about. It got me hyped for WrestleMania, for sure. It got me to give it another chance, because if you've seen our reviews of WrestleMania the past few years, hasn't exactly been very good. There's been some good, but I don't think it's outweighed the negative per se. However, this one got me to give it another chance, and you saw it also, Will Vafidez, so I'd like to discuss it with you. Starting from the beginning, they have this video talking about WrestleMania's past and what WrestleMania has become, and I mentioned last time that they took the hyperbole to a new level when they called it the celebration of life. Like I said, Snooki and the celebration of life should never be used in the same sentence. But that was just the intro. We get the title, and then we go into the documentary itself. Now, unfortunately, it started off with Mean Gene Okerlund repeating the same ridiculous bullshit of WrestleMania took wrestling out of the smoky little halls and made it big time. Oh, my God. They're still perpetuating this shit? This isn't even true in this own company's history. Just a few years before this, they were doing Shea Stadium with Hogan and Andre. Of course, Hogan body slammed Andre then, and that never happened either. But, like I said, this is a company that sold out MSG for decades before WrestleMania. To say nothing of the Von Erichs and WCCW, World Class Wrestling, having huge shows in Texas, the NWA and Starrcade. So, let's just forget that ridiculous idea right there. So at least once that's out of the way, the first portion covering WrestleMania I really enjoyed, which went into detail about the closed circuit broadcast of WrestleMania, and they actually interviewed a lot of the people who ran the theaters in Connecticut or so that actually showed the first WrestleMania broadcast. And I thought that was really neat. So I'm actually going to go into detail about a lot of things, Will Vafidez. So if you have anything you want to interject right here, go right ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that was really great is it showed the history before WrestleMania, because a lot of people don't know about rock and roll wrestling. A lot of people don't know about all that stuff, how they were on MTV and all these great things that they were
People
already
our
doing.
age know about that, but I think you mean the younger audience.
I'm talking about a younger audience, not really so much us. I mean, I didn't know everything about it, but what was great was that they did show the past history that they've done with celebrities, and yeah, the closed caption thing, I never knew about that, so that was pretty neat to see. Definitely, like, if you're a historian, that first part of that DVD was wonderful. They spent a good 20 to half hour on that, too. So they give you a lot of info on how big wrestling was really getting. So that was what stuck out for me was that they did talk about a lot of the celebrities, and definitely the closed captioning thing was really cool.
Closed circuit, you mean? A lot of people complain, including yourself, Will, that the first several WrestleManias seem to be spotlighted, but then once we get to the latter WrestleManias, they seem to kind of go into fast forward and kind of glossed over it. I joked that maybe it's just because there hasn't been really that much stand out in the past decade or so of WrestleMania here and there, but I think it was also really laying the groundwork for what WrestleMania would become, and you could see the vision of Vince McMahon coming clear in this. And as much as I ride Vince McMahon and I call him out on all his bullshit, I've been very harsh on him in the past about Owen Hart, the drug policy, and other sort of ridiculous beliefs like I just mentioned earlier, his Orwellian wordplay. You can really see that this man had a vision for wrestling and WrestleMania in particular, and you have to really admire that. To have the balls to even conceive of moving forward, as we are in this documentary, to WrestleMania 2 and doing a three-way across the U.S. simulcast, just the logistics of that, as they were saying in the documentary, would be ridiculous to pull off now, let alone in 1986 as they did then, between Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. And one thing they didn't touch upon is if it was a monumental failure or not, and you don't think so. And being that it wasn't, you'd think they would have tried it again. And I'll tell you what, Will, watching it, it made me think how the idea of the brand split was to replicate what, in a sense, what they were doing in the 80s when they had 3 or 4 maybe different touring schedules where they had multiple shows going on at a given time. We all hear about the ridiculous road schedule that they had back then. Well, they were kind of getting that way where there's a Raw house show going on the same time as SmackDown, blah, blah, blah. But this hasn't been attempted on this scale yet. And you know what? Watching this, I thought of, I think I know the promoter that would probably, if anybody, would attempt that sort of thing again. And I think Dana White probably would.
Yeah, I think that would be actually kind of interesting to see 2 UFCs in 2 different areas, especially at the price level of those shows, too. Splitting it up might be good. And the fact that everybody would stay and watch the entire show. I don't know if our generation would sit in an arena and watch it on, like, big monitors. I don't know if we would do that. Things have changed since then. People like to see things. Right, and
I don't think that it would probably end up like that. Like, going to a UFC show, when you watch a pay-per-view, you end up actually only seeing about half the fights that night. Mm-hmm. That's if they even air any of the prelims, because prelims are half the card, and a lot of it's made up of local guys, too, or some of the lesser-known fighters, obviously, but with them going around the world, and let's say the Brazil show coming up in August. What if half of it, I mean, maybe it's not fiscally responsible, but let's just say, for the sake of example, half of it aired live fights from Brazil, and the other half aired live fights from Vegas. I think that audience would end up seeing fights live instead of actually watching it on a monitor, but it was just a thought that passed through my mind. Moving on to WrestleMania 3, this was probably my favorite part of the documentary for many reasons.
One of the things that I thought was amazing was the amount of time they didn't have to sell that show out.
Right.
And the fact that they did it and set an indoor attendance record for the longest time, that was just phenomenal. I mean, I did not know that arena wasn't even booked. What did they say, like 3 months? Wasn't even that, was it?
Oh, it was probably about a month, I think they said. And let's say something about the attendance record. They keep saying 93,173. I thought it was hilarious that when they did go back to Detroit, which they covered later on with Donald Trump, that they actually really did set their record, but they couldn't say it because that would contradict the fake number from 87, at least supposedly fake. Dave Meltzer, and if he says it, it's got to be true. People
Yeah.
constantly repeat that. Oh, well, he says that they only had 78,000. You know what? Even if it was 78,000 instead of 93,173, it's still really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, a lot of people's favorite WrestleManias. Like, to see a good history on that, on how impactful that Mania was, even with the lack, they didn't have that many celebrities on that one either. And the fact that they pulled off a great WrestleMania to watch, and that one, to me, definitely stuck out to me because they spent a good amount of time on the 3 and how impactful that was to really set, especially Hulk Hogan on the map, and how big it was for Andre, and Hogan talked a lot. In the beginning part of the DVD, Hogan was in this DVD a long time.
And that's something else I thought, too. Obviously, when you're watching it, now, I don't know what you watched it on. As I said, I watched it on Netflix. And
I have a DVD.
Right. Obviously, this was new interview footage. It's not the typical recycled from his O2 run shit that this was something that they've obviously must have been working on for a while if they shot this, presumably before he went to TNA, which is great. And they give him proper credit. It's not like they just completely buried him or ignored him like they do on TV now because he's not there. And what I loved about the Hogan-Andre thing is not just the brevity that people who watched it at the time and can appreciate it, like Cena, when they were talking about him and the body slam and everything, but I really dislike the smart marky, snarky disregard that they give this match. Oh, it was horrible. Andre was so out of shape and slow and in pain and blah, 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 and they could barely move. And, of course, the 5-star classic that Steamboat and Savage definitely was, and I'm not taking anything away from that match either, is the better match in their eyes. But you know what? It's apples and oranges, and it's two completely different things, which I believe are great for two different reasons, maybe even more. And I think a lot of the backstory with that, of course, it's hindsight. That changes it in a way, but it adds a degree to it, I think. When you find out about how much physical pain Andre was in with his growth disease really raging on his body, he just had back surgery, and he went through with this and gutted it out because he was friends with Hogan. This was important, and he really did his job, and he took this body slam. Maybe he could barely move right, but he took this body slam on his back from Hogan. It was the loudest pop I've ever heard for a wrestling match, and I think it really shows a lot of what's great about wrestling itself. I think it might actually be the greatest moment in wrestling history, and I'm not afraid to say it. And it really made Hogan, who'd already been champion for 2 years, yes, but the way they built this up, even if they ignored the fact that these two had had a feud in this very fucking company years earlier, they ignored the fact that Andre had ever been body slammed, which had happened many times. Still, the way they built this up and the way this match was performed, just even visually, it was the pinnacle of wrestling to me. And by the end of that segment, I had a tear in my eye, I swear. This reminded me of why I was a wrestling fan, and I really loved it. And then it segued into Savage and Steamboat. So kind of backtracking a little bit, but that was a classic in and of itself, culminating this great build-up where Savage had injured Steamboat's throat, and just a great performed match, and even tying in the feud with George the Animal Steele from the previous WrestleMania, stopping Savage from cheating and hurting Steamboat again. It was just perfect. Those two matches alone were absolutely perfect, and to cap off the whole WrestleMania 3 talk, as I mentioned, you could really see the seeds being planted in these first several mega shows for WrestleMania, the vision of Vince McMahon being fulfilled, and frankly, we as wrestling fans really owe a whole lot to Vince McMahon for doing that. So as much as I dislike a lot of the things he's done and said and whatever, you have to at least give him credit, and I really sympathized when he was talking about his dad. I mean, how could you not? As much as people say he's Satan and soulless, and I'm certainly guilty of that myself, when he's talking about his father after he walked out in front of 93,000 people and he got choked up, gets this tear in his eye in the interview, how could you not sympathize with that?
Yeah, I mean, you don't see Vince McMahon cry too often, folks. I mean, that was just, very heartwarming. He took a big gamble. Again, when you talk about one match revolutionized maybe technical wrestling and one revolutionized how a main event really is built up, that was the show to me that really took wrestling to the next level, without a doubt. Vince, for a guy that gets a lot of trash for everything, he is what made this what we have today. When he's talking about his father, what he's done, and his vision, it's just definitely the moment of the DVD that probably really, like I said, Eric, does get you emotional a little bit. It says, this is why I'm a wrestling fan. This is the kind of stuff that is a moment that you'll never forget, and that's one of those moments that you'll never forget. Overall, just a wonderful emotional investment in this whole WrestleMania. It's just a wonderful part in the DVD.
From here on, they start jumping all over the timeline, but it actually works out real well because they actually connect it very well. On paper, it sounds like from here they jump to WrestleMania 23. You're like, what the fuck? But they actually tied it in with Donald Trump, and it really was seamless. It made it work. It made it great. However, reliving the Battle of the Billionaires in clips just reminds me of one of the saddest things that Vince McMahon has ever done. Forget about suing Martha Hart after Owen died. Forget about keep pushing these huge wrestlers that might have drug problems. Whatever else he might have done. I think one of the worst things he's ever done was shave his head, because that beautiful hair has never grown back. It's never been the same.
No, but I liked it because a lot of this footage, no one's seen this DVD yet, and you don't really know much about wrestling, at least as far as the history of WWE. There's so much great footage that I have never seen, from the conferences with Donald Trump and with Hogan, and some of the cool stuff they did during the weekend to make it really big. And to think that's only an hour from us. Too bad we couldn't be there for it, but it's some pretty cool stuff. Some footage you never thought you'd see.
I like the backstage stuff, whether it's the pre-camera or post-camera roll, where let's say it's Gorilla Monsoon getting ready to introduce a pay-per-view, or Vince explaining to Mean Gene that he really has to emphasize this is a different broadcast while Hogan's standing right there. I love that sort of stuff. But they kind of gloss over WrestleMania 5 in favor of talking about Hogan, which is fine, I guess. And then they jump ahead to WrestleMania 18 with Rock Hogan when they get to WrestleMania 6, connecting it, of course, with both matches being in the Sky Dome against Warrior and against Rock. And around this time, they also take a really weird sidetrack for the next couple WrestleManias that I didn't really care for. Now, for WrestleMania 7, of course, they've been saying for years that, well, we moved it from the bigger Los Angeles Memorial to the other arena because there was terrorist threats. But you actually see the truth actually kind of come out in this segment because they just really didn't have that many tickets sold. So if you just read through the lines, you can actually find the truth there. Although I do think WrestleMania 7 is very underrated, and I loved the theme WrestleManias like Superstars and Stripes Forever or the Caesar's Palace theme later on for WrestleMania 9, but let's not jump ahead too much right there because the next thing I didn't understand was what was with burying WrestleMania 8? Well, I did not get that.
I think mostly they buried the main event, but they did talk about how it wasn't a big mania, but that was my first WrestleMania that I watched on pay-per-view. So to me, that's always going to hold a special place for me. I think for us, too, I don't know, what's the first Mania you watched, Eric?
WrestleMania 6, April 1st, 1990.
Okay, so this was my first one. There were a lot of great matches on that show, and I am surprised they buried it, but they buried it because of,
Ric Flair being in TNA?
Well, I don't think it had nothing to do with that. I think it had
that's the first thing that popped in my head because they just put it completely on Flair's shoulders, and I thought that was absurd. See, the real reason was because Hogan was going off quitting WWE or wrestling to make movies, and that really fucked the main event because this was before they would actually have heels win in WrestleMania main events. So the predicament was, well, we can't have Hogan win the belt and then leave and then vacate it, and then we can't have the heel win. So they went with Plan B instead, and it worked out real well for Macho Man in the great feud that he and Flair ended up having. Hogan said, not really, but at the same time, I remember even as a kid, now this is, of course, before I knew anything, so I put it all on Jack Tunney's shoulders since he's the one that made the announcement. Fuck you, Jack Tunney. He ruined the biggest main event in WrestleMania history. See, because it was originally announced as Flair and Hogan. And then on the DVD, they made up this idea that, well, Ric Flair wasn't accepted by WWE audiences and didn't get over as like we thought, so fuck it, we went with this. Are you fucking kidding me? And then they said it was a lackluster WrestleMania on top of that, when the undercard was actually really good, had Piper's best match ever against Bret Hart, Savage Flair, a lot of great matches, and as I mentioned on the show before, a lot of the matches designed to get over new talent by passing the torch. Michaels beat Santana, Undertaker beats Jake Roberts, et cetera, et cetera. So this was also in the Hoosier Dome, mind you, with tens of thousands of people. And this was a failure? I didn't get that at all.
No, I think some matches weren't as significant like a lot of WrestleManias were, but like I said, there was a lot of new talent on the show. Definitely was significant. They made the best out of a really bad situation, basically. They had a main event that didn't exactly hit. I mean, the Warrior coming back. I mean, did you see? I mean, that arena flipped.
Sure.
I mean, I can't argue that. That was just a huge moment when the Warrior came back.
I just don't see how they could bury WrestleMania 8, but WrestleMania 9 was perfectly fine.
No, 9 didn't get buried at all. That was just definitely strange.
Now, in this section of WrestleMania 9, they did have a lot of great backstage footage, though. It was really neat. Yeah, it was really neat seeing Hogan in the back fooling around with Giant Gonzalez locking up, and Bret Hart asking where the girls are, which, if you read his book, is pretty accurate. And then just the fact that it was the only WrestleMania in Vegas, I liked the Caesars theme. I mean, the card may not have ended up being that great, and they kind of glossed over that bullshit finish with Hogan coming back. But I still think it was at least fun. And it was cool. Once again, you see the vision of Vince McMahon coming out when he was showing Lex Luger how to do the narcissist pose with all the girls and the mirrors and the fireworks. You could see, like, he actually had a vision for these guys, at least back then.
What was good about 8, too, is how they were going into Sergeant Slaughter's character a lot, you know, because that was obviously a big thing with 8.
7.
They did a whole basically, 7, my fault. But what was also good was with 9, was they did talk about the vision of that and how they closed down the strip a little bit. And that was pretty cool. And I always wondered how they pulled that off, because Caesar Palace doesn't have, like, a stadium.
Yeah, you know? If you've ever been to Vegas, and you definitely should, if you go near Caesar Palace, you're like, geez, they set up over here? It's like on the street.
Yeah. Yeah, because I went there, and I always wanted to go over there and take a look at it, because I wanted to see what it looked like. And I looked at it, I'm like, whoa, this looks nothing like 9 at all. Where the hell did they put the place? So it was definitely interesting to see how they pulled off 9. And 9, like I said, there wasn't a lot of big crowds at that show. They couldn't really do anything either. It was such a small WrestleMania. Again, Vince McMahon makes the entertainment part out of it. That's really what he was envisioning for that one.
When they get to WrestleMania 10, they jump ahead once again to WrestleMania 20 and pretty much come out and say that every 10 WrestleManias will be at the Garden as a tradition, which is great. And a lot of people were wondering, are they going to gloss over the Benoit thing? Who we do not speak of, in the main event of WrestleMania 20? Well, of course they are, as they should, but not so you'd even notice. Because, when they cover a lot of these later WrestleManias, they don't go into detail about so many matches like they had for, like, Savage Steamboat or whatever. But the way they did this, I think, was perfectly fine and seamless once again. And even though Bret and Owen get lost in the shuffle there, I still thought the way they covered WrestleMania 10 and 20, especially at this point when they were highlighting the fact that this now is a fan fest. We tried it out at 10 for the first time, and now it's this huge access thing. And the Hall of Fame, it's a big ceremony now. Cities are bidding for WrestleMania now, and it's a weekend worth of events. And it really emphasized how big WrestleMania has become as an entity. So that was pretty cool. But moving on to WrestleMania 11, they actually gave Lawrence Taylor some full spotlight credit here. Yeah, some credit.
Full credit. No, he got full credit for that WrestleMania, because they couldn't talk about anything else on that show.
Well, fine. There really wasn't that much else going on that show anyway, and it was riding on a lot of this. Now, keep in mind, this wasn't a great time period in WWF's history, and the fact that they did this, I thought, pretty good angle with Bam Bam Bigelow got them a lot of publicity. Here in New Jersey, it was all over the Asbury Park Press, because Bigelow's from New Jersey, and got a lot of national coverage too, and they showed the workout if you remember that, in Times Square. I thought it was pretty good, and Lawrence Taylor really pulled it off. Moving on, they do at least highlight the Austin and Bret Hart match at WrestleMania. Unfortunately, we're still in the fucking time period where we get black and white on the blood, and it really just ruins the classic character-making blood from a stone shot where Austin's in the sharpshooter bleeding. It's now not even in motion. It's a still in black and white. Still not too thrilled with that because it's not really for the kids anyway. It's for us. We want to look back. But, I mean, hey, it's a good history lesson for the kiddies. Moving on to WrestleMania 14, they do give proper credit once again, and I'm glad that they do, to Mike Tyson because they talk about the rock and wrestling connection and how important it was for celebrities to get wrestling over with the mainstream audience and get them accepted. Mike Tyson here, very key in revitalizing WrestleMania. I've always used WrestleMania 14 as the standard. I thought it was really good. The idea, of course, is to showcase your greatest stuff once you get the new fans to watch due to Mike Tyson or whatever it might be. And then we move on, skipping ahead a little bit to WrestleMania 19. I thought it was funny how they did that documentary. You remember that documentary that Jesse Ventura narrated from WrestleMania 19? And it was a cool documentary, but it ends up being like how fucked up everybody is.
Yeah.
Austin's hurt. He could barely make it through the match. Angle's got a broken neck. Oh, Brock lands on his head. It was just like, it was a great documentary, but at the same time, if that was your first impression of wrestling, it wasn't very good.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to bring up 14 was how Vince McMahon put a lot of money on the line and put probably the whole company on the line on Mike Tyson. They emphasized that if this did not work, they could be in trouble, even more so than they were. Again, McMahon taking a gamble and paid off for him and turned the whole wrestling wars around completely. That one night changed everything. So, again, Vince McMahon taking the risk with putting the big money on the line to get that.
Speaking of Brock, he only gets about 2 seconds worth of screen time here in a stare down with Angle.
And 20. He got a little bit of time in 20.
A little bit, and I'm not totally shocked that they glossed over him per se, but I am surprised that they didn't have anything with Batista, especially with how WrestleMania 21 was supposed to be him and Cena getting the torch passed to them. On the other hand, though, they did focus on Cena a lot. And I was real happy with that because a lot of the talking heads like Triple H and all the other guys really put him over. What have we been saying on the show for a long time? That he is the Hogan of this time. They actually came out and said it. Mysterio, etc. They said the line goes Hogan, Austin, Cena.
That's the one thing I'll remember from that DVD is that they did say that Cena's been around in more WrestleManias than Austin has. He's just as a big deal as Austin and Hogan, for that matter. He keeps WrestleMania going. Who hates him or not, he's the guy. And that's why I have respect for him, because he's going to be in this business for a long time. He's not going to leave. This is his passion, at least for now. This is what he wants to do. And it's good that you put the guys over that need to be put over, because they're the people that run this shit. They get the asses in the seats. Out of respect, you should do that.
I'm glad that they came out and said that, like we have been saying. That wasn't the only thing. What else have we been saying on the show that they finally came out and admitted on this documentary? Rock and Hogan should have gone last, and so should have Undertaker and Michaels the first time at 25. They finally came out and said it, so I feel really justified for us that they actually came out and said that.
I mean, I think Jericho said it on his DVD too, though. I heard it there. So at least he admitted it, but now I could say, okay, well, Hogan and Rock should have been last. Even Triple H says it. And that's coming from Triple H. That's pretty big. So there you go.
You think that this whole don't say the word wrestlers or wrestling shit's going to end when Triple H takes over?
I say it's going to still continue. I think just because they're going in a direction that is more entertainment. But you never know. I mean, I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, he's just more of a
running the company.
He's just such a big wrestling traditionalist, a big wrestling fan that I don't know. I think there's a possibility. But either way, back to his buddy, Shawn Michaels. He got his own video because I think as this documentary went on, it was a little over 2 hours, but I think in the latter portion that instead of focusing on so much of individual matches, they focused on people or ideas. And getting to Cena. We also got to Shawn Michaels and him earning the moniker Mr. WrestleMania. And when they put all that stuff back together of all the Michaels matches, it really makes you think like, wow, this guy has had so many classics. And it also makes me think about how that match against Mr. McMahon a few years ago was such a waste of a Shawn Michaels WrestleMania. I mean, he's had so many great ones against Angle and Razor and The Ladder and Undertaker now, etc. So it was cool that they focused on those sort of people. And that segment on the audio from all the stadium shows that they're doing now and how it's hard to read a crowd that you think is getting a different reaction because the audio goes up. It was really cool that they explained that sort of stuff. And I loved the portion on America the Beautiful, how pretty much McMahon chose that song over the national anthem because it's much more beautiful. And it really was very awesome.
It does hide the fact that some manias were not as explosive as others. So why not just go over concepts or ideas that they've done in a WrestleMania, like American the Beautiful, like certain wrestlers that have stood out over time. And these are all important things to know about, too. I mean, it's like you can't just talk about just each WrestleMania, not that everything special happened, but to talk about one person or a concept at a Mania that continues today is good to know, and it's good history. It shows that Mr. McMahon is a patriot of this country. He's a big supporter of it. And that's why he does America the Beautiful instead of the national anthem, which he said was more impactful. He even admitted that, too, on the DVD.
Getting towards the end of the DVD, they did focus on the Undertaker's streak, which I used in a thread on the message board earlier today, actually. Someone brought up the old, I think, untrue idea that wins and losses don't matter, and I said, really? Because I think people would care if Undertaker lost at WrestleMania.
Boy, we almost saw it this year. You saw it, everyone in the house. You saw it.
Wrapping up
losing his mind.
Wrapping up our look back at the WrestleMania True Story documentary, like I said, I thought designed to get you hyped for WrestleMania, and it definitely made me want to give it another shot this year. Jay invited us to watch it at his house, and frankly, if I hadn't gotten invited, I probably wouldn't have watched it, because I've just been so disheartened with it the past few years. But I gave it another shot after watching this because it made me happy as a wrestling fan. And like I said, you just need to have your bullshit filter on to filter out some of the dumb stuff. But that being said, I believe if you are a wrestling fan, this should be pretty much required viewing. This was a great documentary. I really couldn't say enough about it. I think it's the best documentary WWE's ever made. So any other final thoughts on that, Will?
I would put this up there with the ECW one. This was one of the best, something I could watch over and over and over. And that's how good this DVD was. And the fact that I got all the all the extra matches, all the big matches they had at WrestleManias over time. Definitely very excited. Very good DVD. Definitely pick it up. But even if you're a wrestling fan or a sports entertainment fan, it's definitely something you should definitely get. If you have Netflix, watch it. You don't have to pay anything. You already pay $7 a month. But if you really want the matches that really stood out and you want to watch some classic wrestling and how good, real good wrestling is, what really drives people to go watch WrestleMania, get the DVD.
Glad that we've heard the word wrestling a lot because we are not changing it to the W Roundtable or Sports Entertainment Roundtable, whatever the fuck. It's wrestling. And with wrestling, a lot of people want to leech off the success of WrestleMania, and that's fine enough because WrestleMania is a big event now. Wrestling fans, not just from all over the country, but all over the world now, almost go every year to wherever WrestleMania might be. This year it was in Atlanta. Also going to Atlanta was myself, ate at Abdullah the Butcher's place because I was pretty much commandeered to do so with the group that I was in. It was ordered. It seemed like I didn't particularly care myself, but you know what? The Chinese I ordered there, sweet and sour chicken, it was all right. A little too crunchy for my taste, but tasted just fine, and the fried rice was good too. And there's lots of Abdullah and wrestling memorabilia all over the wall. My particular favorite was the picture with Grandpa Al Lewis from the Munsters, but I figured you'd want to hear about Abdullah's restaurant. Either way, Ring of Honor came to Atlanta for the first time ever. Ring of Honor. Honor takes center stage, airing on GoFightLive, iPPV. Corey, our resident indie expert, wants you to chime in on some of the matches. On the first night, Chapter 1, I believe it was the greatest women's match in Ring of Honor history. Sarah Del Rey and Serena Deeb versus Joshi wrestlers, female wrestlers from Japan, Hiroyo Matsumoto and Ayumi Kurahara. Like I said, Corey, I think it was the greatest women's match in Ring of Honor history. What'd you think?
Absolutely, this match would be in contention for that. I'm really shocked by how amazing Matsumoto and Kurihara-san are.
Oh, look how you pronounce it so proper.
I've been studying. I really loved this match. I thought at first that Sarah and Serena were going to win because Sarah put on an excellent effort, and then out of nowhere, Matsumoto, she just looks up at Sarah and goes, "Okay, I'm done playing," and just starts beating the crap out of Sarah. And then she tags in Kurihara, and Serena gets tagged in.
Drop the fake Japanese accent. It's driving me nuts.
Oh, so Serena gets tagged in, and she just gets the hell beat out of her. I was really fascinated. This was an excellently booked match. I loved every ounce of it. There were so many near falls, so many great moves. This match right here was worth the $20 that I spent on both events. Absolutely. This is what Ring of Honor stands for. I really loved this match.
Former partners in the No Remorse Corps, years ago at this point, Davey Richards versus Roderick Strong. Your thoughts on the match, Corey, the rematch from Final Battle?
This was an excellent match. Davey kept pulling in all these different moves. He can do the ankle lock just as well, if not better, than Kurt Angle at his best. He kept snatching up Roderick's leg at every turn. This was
funny.
Really
I didn't hear
great.
Kurt Angle tweeting about that.
No, I didn't hear about Kurt Angle tweeting about that at all. But if he was watching, he would know that Davey can do his move better than him. This was great. I really loved all the back and forth action. I loved the near falls. I loved how close Roderick got to winning, and then Davey just snatches him up out of thin air. I love how Davey has this ability.
Very thin air now with Roderick.
I love how Davey's got this ability where he can catch you in mid-air, counter your move, and then switch it into a submission. That is just amazing to watch. You don't even see that in video games.
Speaking of which, that WWE All-Stars video game, has anybody played that, Will?
Yeah, I played it. It's more of like an arcade style.
I'll say.
I don't expect that. It's okay. It's very good for people who aren't like very technical savvy on the controller. It's very simple and very easy to do. It's kind of cool. It's a little bit different. I don't think this is going to be the best-selling game of all time. Definitely won't. But it's something cool. I think if it was cheaper, I probably would get it, but I'm cool with the demo. But it is kind of neat.
I played the demo, and it was okay, but the loading times need to be faster, and the entire roster would fail the wellness policy.
Oh, my God. I mean, I would rather update the costumes on my No Mercy on the N64 than play this fucking game. It looks ridiculous. Back to Ring of Honor. World's greatest tag team. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrestling's greatest tag team of Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin defeated the Kings of Wrestling for the ROH World Tag Team titles. I believe it was a day before the one-year anniversary of Kings of Wrestling winning the belts, so they are the longest reigning Ring of Honor tag champions ever. Wow, what a match. It was really good, and it was really cool to see, let's say, the renaissance of Haas and Benjamin. They've been doing real well in the Ring of Honor run. It seemed natural that this would happen. I don't know what their status is with the company as far as whether they're under contract or it's a per-appearance deal or whatever, so it may not be a long-term thing. But either way, it was still cool, and I think it lends credibility to the tag titles that used to be held by fucking Special K. So what'd you think of the tag match, Corey?
Very shocking. I actually thought that Kings of Wrestling might retain since it was 2 days until their one-year anniversary as tag champions.
Okay.
They just went at it and at it and at it. And I don't think I've ever seen Haas and Benjamin wrestle this fast before, and that's saying something because they're a great tag team. But this time they were really on their A game. This was their best match. And I loved the reaction on Shelton's face when they won the match. That was just beautiful to me. This was a beautiful match. This match solidifies what's good about wrestling, everything that's wonderful about wrestling. If you need a match that will help you believe in wrestling again, this is it. This was definitely worth the money. I loved the action between these two.
I gave the new champion, Eddie Edwards, a lot of compliments on the last show, so I'm sorry to say the first thing out of my mouth is going to be his new music sucks. Sorry, it's just too generic for me. He defended against the TV champion, Christopher Daniels, And what'd you think of the main event of the first night, Corey, champion versus champion, one belt on the line?
A very surprising match. I didn't expect the match to go where it did. I think Eddie did a fantastic job, though. I was a little bit shocked when Christopher didn't shake his hand after the match, but considering how night 2 went, now it doesn't shock me at all. But this was a great match.
Any other thoughts from the first night of action, Corey?
I'm curious to see if they'll bring back the wrestler they had for the Four Corner Survival match, Caleb Connolly, because I thought he did pretty well. And another thing, Mia Yim, she is so pretty. I thought she looked really beautiful on both shows.
The next night, on April 2nd, one of the matches I wanted to talk about was Colt Cabana against Dave Taylor. Colt Cabana doing a angle now where he wants to have good technical matches now that he's done with the hardcore brawling of the Steen-Carino feud. And what'd you think of old Dave Taylor doing the English style of wrestling against Cabana, Corey?
I loved it. I was surprised at how fast this match was. I thought it was going to last longer. I loved the technical back and forth between these two. I loved how they were able to match each other at every other turn. This was really a cool match.
Short, but cool, and I like that the finish, the roll-up finish, was somewhat out of nowhere. I like that. Shimmer Tag Champions Daisy Hayes and Tomoka Yakagawa fought Hiroyo Matsumoto and Ayumi Karahawa. Happy now, Corey?
You're getting there. You're getting there.
I wasn't very impressed with Tomoka compared to her other Joshi wrestler compadres. The Japanese Mischief, I don't know. She really didn't do much for me compared to Matsumoto Kurihara. But what'd you think, Corey? And that's the last I'm going to try that.
Nakagawa definitely wants to be Mischief. I think she was trying a little too hard in that respect. Complete rip-off. But wrestling-wise, I thought she was very good. I think Daisy really needs to eat something. She's scarily thin. During the match, the crowd erupted into boos for Daisy, and then they started chanting, "Eat a burger!" Clap, 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 clap. I'm really concerned. I hope that she's okay.
Well, she looked ripped as shit to me before the match. I think she's okay.
I hope she is. She looked way too skinny. Maybe it was the lighting from the feed. I don't know. But
there was lighting in that building?
It did appear quite dark on the GoFightLive cameras. But other than that, I'm very surprised that Daisy and Tomoka won, because I really thought that Matsumoto and Kurihara were going to win that one.
Luckily for everyone's ears, there are no more Japanese wrestlers on the show.
Gomen ne.
Whatever. The Briscoes against All Night Express. This is, I think, sprung out of nowhere in the past couple of months, in a sense, as Ring of Honor's pretty much top feud in a way. People are really into it, and it's getting real passionate. And essentially, the double turn happened in this match, kind of like the Bret Austin bloodfest of WrestleMania 13 in a way. Briscoes and ANX double juice and a double turn. Briscoes just not caring what anybody thinks anymore. Jay Briscoe cutting a big, good heel promo after the match. But what'd you think of ANX and Briscoe's Corey?
That was incredibly hardcore. This was a big shocker. There was a lot of passion. You are right on that one. There was a lot of passion into this match. I thought that Kenny King was on his A game for this, and Rhett, he's a hardcore little badass. There's a lot of potential in Rhett Titus. I really loved the effort he put into this. I didn't expect the crowd to boo Jay and Mark Briscoe. That came out of nowhere. But I really loved the overall feel of this match.
Christopher Daniels turned heel to join the House of Truth after Generico and Roderick Strong. Chris Daniels is also back in TNA now, in violation of his ROH contract, I might add. Some people I read thought that this had something to do with the heel turn. I don't necessarily think that it did. But either way, Chris Daniels, I guess somewhat reminiscent of his Prophecy days back in Ring of Honor, is a heel now. So do you think it's appropriate, Corey, and how'd you like it?
Well, I was shocked at first because I kind of felt he was going to turn heel. I didn't think he was going to join the House of Truth. A big shocker, to say the least. And it did feel a lot like his older heel stuff, so I'm curious to see where they go from here. I hope that they're not going to cut him just because of the TNA thing.
I doubt that. Moving on to the main event, Chris Harris on our last show complained about too many non-title matches, and that's exactly what happened. You'd think that the American Wolves, after being ROH Tag Champions for so long and one half being the World Champion, would get a title match, but not to be. The first defense of the new champions, Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team, was against the reunited American Wolves. Seeds were planted for a Davey-Eddie rivalry afterwards. So what'd you think of the match, Corey? How did it top off a weekend of Ring of Honor?
I thought this was a great match. I thought that the World's Greatest Tag Team showed a lot of stamina in this match, especially when they did all those German suplexes to the American Wolves. That was incredible to watch. That made me feel like when I was a kid watching them, well, a teenager watching them. I thought that was pretty cool. And the seeds have definitely been planted for a future Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards feud. So if they do have this match for the title, I'm definitely curious to see how that will turn out.
Some people were saying that it was the best Ring of Honor shows in a long time, maybe ever, but you can order the replays over at our partner, GoFightLive.tv. GoFightLive also hosts Wrestling Roundtable shows. We were the first wrestling show content on there, talk show-wise. We were the first over there, and if you're listening to us over there, thank you very much. Wherever you are listening to us, whether it's live on Blog Talk Radio, Go Fight Live, WrestlingRoundtable.com, or after the fact on YouTube, please share, rate, comment, and subscribe wherever you are. Let's go to some calls now before we get to some of the other stories. Gerard from New Jersey?
Yeah, Clark. The story of WrestleMania DVD. I really quickly would have covered 8 more because I'm a big fan of WrestleMania 8, especially the ending promo with Macho Man and Ric Flair. I love that promo.
Will Brooks. Hello, Will.
Hey, guys. Sorry I'm late, everybody. I had some stuff I had to get done for tomorrow, so I was a little late today.
Well, thanks for joining the panel, and we'll be moving on to WrestleMania in a little bit. But like I said, some more calls. Ryan from Massachusetts. Hello, Ryan.
Hey guys, this is a really trivial thing just to get mad over, but Kings of Wrestling were just 2 days from a full year. 2 days. And I really
just like Kevin Nash in 1995.
Or MVP in 2008, or Paul and Brian Kendrick from 2007. I don't know why. It's just, I always want to see like one full year. Then Cena does it and has a whole other month, and I don't know. But it was a great match. I'm really happy for Haas and Benjamin Ayer in it, but 2 days.
Dominic from Staten Island, hello.
Hey guys, I got the True Story of WrestleMania on DVD too. It's actually a birthday present because I was born the weekend of WrestleMania 1, and a lot of the great WrestleManias happen to fall on my birthday, 3 and 14.
Happy birthday, by the way. Belated.
Thank you. Yeah, I like when they have, I believe the actor, his name is Keith David, who does the narration for this DVD.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you mention that. I just watched the documentary Unforgivable Blackness for the first time about the first black heavyweight champion in boxing, Jack Johnson. And I recognized the voice then, too, Keith David, from one of my favorite movies, John Carpenter's The Thing in 1982, or, if you like, Fighting Roddy Piper and They Live in 1987. Yeah. And as I was watching this, I'm thinking, WWE's really trying to do the TNA black narrator voice sort of thing. And I'm like, I kind of recognize him. And then I saw his name in the credits. I was like, of course, I thought it was him. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the only thing that surprised me, I thought maybe on this DVD we'd hear from Piper and Brett, but I guess that's just a small thing. Great, you said Glad Hogan got the credit he deserved. I feel the same way about WrestleMania 80. I don't know what they're talking about, so-so WrestleMania. As far as the matches go, I don't get why Shane versus Vince at WrestleMania 17, that's match that represents that WrestleMania, that I don't get it being part of the...
Well, people are fans of that match.
I guess they couldn't have Undertaker and Triple H because they were pretending that match didn't happen until last night. Actually,
I do have a funny story about WrestleMania 17, something I just heard, but I think I'll save it for a little later once we get into our follow-up on Invasion talk, because it relates to that. But that being said, I also, before I get to the news, want to mention some of the fans I've run into on the road recently that I've been neglecting. Sorry about that. Brett in Boston, Chad in Chicago, Larry from Atlanta, going to his first Ring of Honor shows this weekend because Ring of Honor just went to Atlanta for the first time, so he got to see Ring of Honor for the first time in person with his Street Fighter Akuma tattoo, which he said I was the only person that recognized it. I can't believe that, but Street Fighter is my game. And all the fans in New York, just wanted to acknowledge you guys. It was great meeting you. But now it is time for the news. Some of the latest stories available at WrestlingRoundtable.com. Sir Oliver Humperdinck, age 62, former Jim Crockett Promotions, Florida Championship Wrestling, and WWF manager, died on Sunday, March 20th due to complications from kidney cancer and pneumonia. So our condolences go out to the family of Sir Oliver Humperdinck. Kurt Angle was arrested early Friday morning on March 25th after being spotted sitting in a Dodge Durango parked in the Meridian of Grand Forks, North Dakota's I-29. Police were alerted by a passerby, gave Angle a sobriety test upon arrival. Once they smelled alcohol on his breath, which he failed, he was arrested and charged with being in control of a motor vehicle while intoxicated. Angle denied the story, claiming to have gotten a distracting text message to explain him ending up in the Meridian. He posted $300 cash bond and went on to wrestle at TNA's house show at the Alaris Center. No word on whether his car was hacked into or not, though Alex Riley has claimed that Angle's DUI is blatant move stealing. According to Nevada State Athletic Commission Executive Director Keith Kaiser, UFC 125 fighter Thiago Silva's drug testing sample was, quote, inconsistent with human urine. The report of his results says that he, quote, submitted an adulterated and or substituted specimen for testing for the urinalysis. Talk about pissing like a racehorse, he probably actually used racehorse piss. Silva is now temporarily suspended, and until a hearing can be held on April 7th, will remain that way. WrestleMania 11 headliner Lawrence Taylor was sentenced to 6 years probation on Tuesday, March 22nd, after pleading guilty in January to sexual misconduct and patronizing of a prostitute. A hearing on Tuesday, April 12th, will determine what level of sex offender will be assigned Taylor on a scale of 1 to Rob Feinstein. And lastly, Roundtable panelist Rodney LeConte will be competing this Saturday at Grappler's Quest in Asbury Park, New Jersey. To find out more, go to grapplersquest.com. And look for more news in a huge update later this week. Just some of the latest news items going on over at WrestlingRoundtable.com. We've also a lot of polls going on at the moment. I'm going to keep up one a little longer for our MMA show next time, and that is your thoughts on Zuffa purchasing Strikeforce. It's also in the, quote, spring cleaning time that we'll see some cuts coming probably in light of the first quarter results for business. So who do you think will be the first cut in the post-WrestleMania firings this year? That's going on right now at WrestlingRoundtable.com. We're going to move on to WrestleMania 27 in a moment. So the poll I'm going to read results for was, will you be watching WrestleMania 27? 13% said only with friends or at a bar. 13% also said maybe. Moving on up in higher numbers, 17% of you just said no. 27% said yes. And 28%, this is the highest, said only if streaming it illegally. You bootleggers. Tisk, tisk. Anyway, moving on in the weekend that just happened in Atlanta, WrestleMania 27. First of all, I'm going to throw it to you guys for Edge and Alberto Del Rio. Will Vafides, your thoughts on the opener of WrestleMania 27, which opener, it happened like 20 minutes into the show between all the video packages, the Rock promo, Kerry Hilson, who looked hot, singing America the Beautiful, and everything else. Almost half an hour into the show, we finally got our first match, and it was a world title match, no less. So what'd you think of Edge and Alberto Del Rio, aside from my first thought of the wrong guy won?
I thought the match was very good. I liked the fact that they had the two guys on the outside of the ring. I'm not going to say they know the wrong guy run.
I am.
No, I agree with that. It just
but you just said you weren't going to say it.
I didn't want to say it first.
I'd be glad to.
The wrong guy won, especially that was the opener of the show. You could easily get away with the heel winning that. I'm guessing they're just trying to push maybe the Christian Edge storyline with it so it can move forward. It was a good match. It's good that they said the winner gets a shot at a championship belt at WrestleMania and not say main event. I don't know if they said that at the Royal Rumble or not, but I had to replay that. Good match. I didn't like the ending with the car.
That
Edge
was just fucking weak.
The problem is to me is that Edge already won. So what was the point of destroying the car?
because he had a grudge against him. He wanted to rub it in. That being said, shouldn't Alberto Del Rio have been like, whatever, I've got 20 more just like it, Edge?
Well, yeah, I mean, he might say it on SmackDown, but I'm not sure.
Well, the reason I think the wrong guy won, besides the obvious, I'm sorely disappointed with this WrestleMania supposedly being the youth movement going into full effect. Vince McMahon said at the investors meeting, this WrestleMania is going to be the WrestleMania we spotlight younger guys who haven't been, or at least fresher guys who haven't been in title matches before, and blah, blah, blah. I think the wrong guys won in both cases, and it bookended WrestleMania in a bad way, or sandwiched WrestleMania in a bad way. The middle was fine, but the beginning and end I particularly didn't like. Starting off, I may not have announced a lot of shows. I've only done ring announcing a few times, but I cannot fucking stand Justin Roberts and anyone who sounds like him. It's appropriate that Pee-wee was on WrestleMania because I think Justin Roberts announces like Pee-wee. And I noticed this at the Royal Rumble because it'd be like, high voice, and then WrestleMania, the winner of the Royal Rumble, Edge and Alberto Del Rio. That just drives me fucking nuts. But that being said, Alberto Del Rio, I definitely think should have won, not just because it'd be great to have this new face in there, and I hate to think that WWE didn't do it because this is their pattern, because it was so obvious that they didn't want to do it. It's like a Russo-esque wanting to swerve the smart mark sort of shit that I don't particularly like. And I've never liked Edge. A lot of people were raving about this match, and I just don't see it. It was the same deal with the Rumble with Edge and Dolph Ziggler. People said that match was great. I don't see it. I thought they were okay and nothing more. I like that Edge did not kill Alberto Del Rio with that plancha, because I always remember his first match ever on Raw against Jose Estrada when he gave him a stinger with the leg landing right on his head. Brodus Clay really does look like King Hippo. I know I'm not the first one, I guess, or the only one, rather, to have said that, but he really does. As for the finish, like I said, I did not care for that because with Sin Cara coming in, if you follow the numbers they do, incidentally, TNA is beating them in the UK, which just sounds fucking astounding, but it's true. But in Mexico, there's two main promotions in Mexico, AAA and the MLL. WWE is kicking their fucking ass bad. In fact, some of the promoters in Mexico have been saying that we should combine together to give fans super matches to compete with WWE. Doubt that's going to work, but over the past 5 or so years, between Eddie Guerrero, especially Rey Mysterio, and the fact that SmackDown primarily has a large Hispanic audience comparative to other WWE shows, you'd think if they're doing this great in Mexico, the fact that they just signed one of the biggest stars in Mexico, Mystico, and I think it would just be huge if Dos Caras, as he used to be known, Alberto Del Rio, was world champion, possibly feuding with Sin Cara. I think that would have been something to really put it over the top and really establish themselves in Mexico, but that's just from a business sense. As for the fucking car jacking, I guess, afterwards, I just can't believe that they didn't have the thought to do a 5-second pose at the top of the car at least. But what do you think, Will Brooks?
Before I answer your question, I want to say a shout-out to one of our biggest fans who's not going to say his version, 0.5. He's in the UK. He's actually a really cool guy. He joins me on the chat room every Monday night, and I really like him, but he's going on a tour soon, and he won't be on the radio for a long time. So I want to say, hey, what's up, man? And
well, I definitely appreciate him staying up so late in the UK to listen to us, so thank you very much. He posts on the message board all the time, so thanks a lot.
I'm going to miss him. But anyway, the match itself wasn't bad, but definitely the wrong guy did go over, and I don't see why they want to keep the belt on Edge to begin with. It's not like he brings anything to the table that's all that special. He's not even that great of a wrestler anymore. At least with Alberto Del Rio, you got a nice villain who's getting pushed for months, and it made a lot of sense. It would have been cool if you actually faced Sin Cara in a match, Mexican versus Mexican. But it doesn't make any sense, and you're right, the 5-second pose would have been cool. But the problem I had with WrestleMania as a whole, they a lot of things in WrestleMania just went on way too long. Like Rock's opening promo went too long. The whole smashing the car, it took like 10 minutes when you could have just done it in half that time. The Lawler Cole match went on too long. Too many things at the night went too long, and it really killed the show for me.
Well, I've got a lot to say about that, but I'll save my point for a little later on. And going down the card, the next match was Cody Rhodes against Captain Mexico, as I called him, Rey Mysterio. I just did not understand why this match was not mask versus mask. I think weeks ago this would have made sense. I loved the former dashing Cody Rhodes, essentially Phantom of SmackDown look. I actually think it would have been cool if they went the full Phantom of the Opera route of him just hanging out in the rafters or the bowels of arenas in SmackDown, wherever they are, wearing his mask because he's afraid to show his face anymore. I love the gimmick, and I thought it would have been more poignant for this match if it was just that, because Cody Rhodes could have been like, well, Ray, I was dashing, I was gorgeous, and you made me hide my face. You've always hidden yours, so I'm going to take that mask from you at WrestleMania and show the world your face. I'm going to break your tradition. And Mysterio should have been like, well, to even it up, I'm going to show your face to the world, which you don't want to do either, and blah, blah, blah. I just think it would have been cooler. But I guess they want to expand the angle further beyond that because Cody Rhodes won. I thought it was a decent match. And what do you guys think of Mysterio and Cody Rhodes, Will Vafides?
It was one of my favorite matches. I think that was booked right. I think using the knee brace was a great finish. And again, I like Mysterio's outfit. He always does those fancy outfits. I like the match, and the right person won. I do like the gimmick. Even in the background, they have like a newspaper. He's no longer dashing, and the slower music. It kind of puts a psychological look on the guy that he really is really hates the fact that he's got to wear this mask.
The angle's great for that, his character, and it's great for Mysterio's signature move too.
And I got to tell you, from last year, I would have never said Cody Rhodes would be on at WrestleMania and would win by himself. A lot of people said Ted DiBiase was a standout star, and here we are a year later. Wow, totally different scenario. Cody Rhodes is going to be on his way in a year. He's going to be one of the top stars. I've seen an Intercontinental run, at least for this year, and if he sticks with his gimmick, he's going to be something big. So I'm glad he won. The right guy won.
You know, I gotta agree with you, Eric. I actually like the dashing Cody Rhodes a little bit better. No, nothing wrong with the Phantom of the Opera thing he's doing now, but I like dashing a little bit better. I don't like his new song, even though, yeah, you guys are right, it does fit, so I can't complain too much, but I did like the old song better. But for what he's doing right now and the angle that was going on, it really made a lot of sense. That being said, it was a great match. And Cody Rhodes, right, he was the right guy to go over. And I actually liked how he took off, his numerous to his knee brace. We all know he's had 6 knee surgeries. So him taking his knee brace off would have been cool if he put him in a figure 4, but other than that, it was really cool.
Up next was Snoop Dogg's skit with Teddy Long, which I guess is the 2011 version of Tim Allen with the Bolsheviks. A lot of people complaining, Beth Phoenix didn't even perform on the show. She was on it for 2 seconds in this stupid skit, whatever. I thought it was okay until the midget showed up. That's usually my line on this whole thing anyway. It was fine until the midget showed up. Fuck that. Then we move on to the let's get everyone on this match as we can. Kind of like the Cruiserweight Gauntlet at WrestleMania 20. Let's just get everyone in on the show that we possibly can sort of match. Like the Battle Royal pre-show. But this one, Big Show and Kane, former tag champions, teaming with Santino and Kofi Kingston against the Core. This served multiple purposes in the 2 minutes it lasted. One, got all these guys 5-6 figure paydays for 2 minutes worth of work. And it also killed 2 title matches right there with the Intercontinental Champion Barrett and the tag champions Gabriel and Slater. And 2 minutes barely seemed even worth it. The entrances lasted longer, but that's getting more into that time stuff I'll be covering later. But anyway, the knockout at least looked good, that Big Show threw, and the uppercut that came through. So what did you guys think of this 8-man tag?
Is it just me, or does it seem like every time the Core loses or Nexus loses, it's always Heath Slater who takes the job? This is me. Otherwise,
probably should out of all those guys.
Yeah, he is the worst. Yeah, I just didn't get to see the whole point of this match either. It only lasted 2 minutes. What purpose did it really serve? So, whatever.
Yeah, it's a filler. Big Show got only his 3rd win in WrestleMania history.
And they're all in tag matches, aren't they?
Well, maybe. I don't know. That could be a point. Core should have won that one. I think that's the group that should have went over. I understand why they had them win. I get it. 2-minute match. Everybody got a little part on the show. And that's what all it was for. But I definitely think that match could have been at least 5 minutes at least. But we'll talk about why that didn't happen in a second.
Yeah, there wasn't time, Will. We had to cut the U.S. title match with Sheamus and Danielson and even combine that into the Battle Royal.
But there was a main event on Raw.
The skit afterwards lasted longer with The Rock talking to yet another champion who didn't wrestle on the show, Eve. And, of course, fucking Mae Young shows up, It's another joke that I don't like, that they always have to do. Never funny to me. Whatever. People like it, I guess. Whatever.
Divasaurus?
And then the Austin stare down, which I guess people popped for, but didn't accomplish too much.
I thought it was actually kind of funny. I liked the Divasaurus one. That there was just some funny parts in there. And, yeah, I mean, I knew you were going to see The Rock and Stone Cold at some point interact. They could have put him in the ring because then it would overshadow the whole show. It was a good little segment. I like that one. It's better than the Snoop Dogg one, that's for sure.
Again, another skit that just felt went a little too long and kind of ruined the pace of the show. And that being said, yes, it was kind of cool to see The Rock and Austin stare down.
Randy Orton defeated Punk, CM Punk, I guess still leader of the Nexus, though it seems to me like the Nexus is somewhat dead on the water. Now, I never understood, at least storyline-wise, why we should care about Punk being the leader of Nexus. I'm sure the real reason backstage is probably like, well, once we had Wade Barrett go to SmackDown and we did the core thing and we did the NWO Wolfpack thing with the fucking Nexus, they wanted to keep Punk in a spotlight sort of role. So he gets to do this thing in the mid-card, keep Nexus alive. So I get that. But just from a storyline point of view, so Mason Ryan debuts on Raw, right? And he beats the shit out of Punk and Cena, but this was his initiation. And he kneels in front of Punk and takes the armband and looks at Punk as his leader. And then Punk is leading around these guys in Nexus shirts. Here's what I don't get. It seems to me like every faction has some sort of common theme or purpose. The Horsemen, of course, were rich assholes who wanted to keep the belt on Flair and protect them at all costs. The NWO wanted to take over WCW. The Nation of Domination were black. That was pretty much it. But at least with the first Nexus, NXT rookies banding together because they were disrespected, I get it. Why is Punk hanging out with Husky Harris and Mason Ryan and those sort of guys? I just didn't really get why they're supposed to look towards this guy. It's not even like they were straight edge, like the straight edge society. I didn't really get that. And being that Orton's pretty much taken them all out now and then beaten their leader, even despite the tag match that they had the next night, it just seems like, what's the point of Nexus anymore? Especially with the core doing their own thing. That's just a complete aside. The match itself I thought was pretty good. I liked the high kick, Crow Cop style, that Punk threw to reverse out of the Diamond Cutter, RKO, and the finish was pretty good too. So, what do you guys think of Orton and Punk?
I know I'm going to get shredded for this, but I thought it was the best match on the card.
I don't think that is a bad argument to make.
Punk should have went over. He needed that win. He really needed that win. The fact that he didn't win it, what I did like is that when he escaped from the RKO, he actually held his breath a little bit, like he was scared. So
Whoa, close call there.
Yeah, like a close call. Yeah, it's some people just get away from it and go away. He actually looked like he was scared, and his facial expressions in the entire match were really good. So I like the way this feud's going. I don't understand why Punk is wearing a Nexus shirt the next night. There is no Nexus right now. I don't know. I mean, we'll see where this goes. I think it was the second or third best match on the card.
Now's where the time really starts to drag, I think. We go from a segment of Mean Gene Okerlund and The Rock and surprise Pee Wee Herman. I love Pee Wee Herman, so I was glad to see him, although it was pretty lame up until he was bumping into The Rock's fist. But then so much fucking time is taken up here. Now, I'm not going to degrade the Hall of Fame segment, fine, but then there's so many entrances. As cute as the visual was of the glass breaking for Austin's entrance in the background of the close-up of Jack Swagger doing push-ups, is it really fucking necessary to have all these entrances for so many fucking people? I mean, it was morbidly funny in a masochistic way to have Michael Cole berate Jim Ross during his whole entrance, because I just love how Jim Ross shows up, and Vince McMahon, he's in Michael Cole's ear or Edge's ear that one time, or whoever's ear is burying Jim Ross at that given moment just to fuck with him. And it's so funny because he just keeps coming back and doing it. He just keeps getting insulted and fucked with. It's so funny to me. But then the announcers get entrances. The wrestlers get entrances. Or the participants, I should say. The referee, the guy in the corner. So much fucking time is taken up for fucking entrances. Then the match drags on. How does an 8-man tag get a minute and a half or 2 minutes or whatever, and Lawler and Cole go like 14 minutes? My God, it was death. The crowd was dead for it. And all this build-up with Michael Cole is like the top heel in the company pretty much. I think Bill Treadway, who writes our recaps on WrestlingRoundtable.com for Superstars, Raw, and pay-per-views, had a great line today. He said that the top 3 heels in WWE are an announcer, a dead wrestler's wife, and a laptop. That kind of just shows the status of sports entertainment right now. But anyway, so you have all this build-up of Michael Cole being this troll asshole top heel. Isn't WrestleMania for blow-offs? Shouldn't he have gotten the shit beat out of him? In a pile driver, I might add, which was also missing. And that's it? Why do we need to reverse this? I mean, it was kind of funny in a reverse good way, but then there's the stunners afterwards and the beer party. I swear to God, all this shit ate up like half an hour in and of itself. So that's an example, I guess, of what you were talking about, Will Brooks. So your thoughts on this whole segment right here?
First off, it probably should have been like a handicap match with Jack Swagger and Cole versus Jerry Lawler. It would have been a little bit better. At least it would have had, like, I could see Jack Swagger versus Jerry Lawler having a decent match with Cole making running, and then eventually Lawler gets his hands on like we all want. But that didn't happen, and it was kind of crappy the other way around. And, yeah, you're right, it was going on way too long, and there was no pile driver. Like, what the hell was that? That's Jerry Lawler's finish. That's his known move. How you can not do that? And then, like, the celebration went on way too long. And even though Booker T doing a spin-a-rooney and then getting stunned and spitting the beer out on the way down was kind of funny to watch,
Spit cell.
Should have been a squash. I kind of compared it to the Bret Hart McMahon match from last year where it went a little too long. That was an overhyped match where everyone wanted to see that, and then the sizzle was better than the steak. Basically, this is the same thing that happened here. Way too long. Cole should have never got that much offense on the match. And I did like the segment where it stunned Booker T, and I thought what was even funnier is that they reversed the decision at the end of the match. That was actually kind of funny, because you knew this was going to continue after that.
Why?
I
thought it should have been the end of it right there at WrestleMania.
It should have. I know that. That's why I was kind of mad about the reverse decision, but then now you know you're going to get more Cole just talking about now he's Mr. WrestleMania. He's undefeated. He just got more juice on him now.
Like I said, the streak begins.
Yeah, the streak begins. The match is way too long. It definitely killed a little bit of a lot of the momentum of the show when a lot of people just expected this to be a blow-off. Maybe they just wanted to get more time for Austin to be on the show, but I don't know. I mean, I was pretty disappointed in that match.
Maybe instead of the pile driver that we were hoping for, Lawler could have done his 2 new finishers, the facelift and the hair plug. Speaking of which, I also, every time I watch Spike TV now, I can't get it out of my head. Every time they plug that new show from the creators of Ice Road Truckers, Cole or whatever, I just think of Michael Cole. That would actually be something I'd want to see. Anyway, time stands still yet again. It's to the point now, and I'm all about pageantry and circumstance, or pomp and circumstance, pageantry and having a big show and cool entrances and all that stuff. But it's getting to the point now where entrances have entrances. Granted, it wasn't as bad as Triple H's 3 entrances when he came back to fight King Booker at SummerSlam a few years ago, but still, as cool as For Whom the Bell Tolls was, and that Skeletor outfit or whatever the fuck he was wearing, between the video skits and the entrances for entrances, this shit just takes up way too much time. So, that aside, just keep that in mind because I'm going to mention it again. The match itself, obviously people are going to expect that it's not going to be as good as Shawn Michaels' Undertaker. Maybe it wasn't. But in and of itself, regardless of the 2 Shawn Michaels matches that preceded it, I haven't watched the WrestleMania 17 match in a long time, and I remember it being good. However, just off the top of my head, from what I saw on Sunday, I think this match topped it. I think Triple H and Undertaker, as maybe old and beaten down as they are, knew enough that they could not top the, let's say, athleticism or agility of the Michaels-Undertaker matches, so they went for the story instead. And, yeah, we were joking that Triple H jobs at WrestleMania in return for having 99% of the offense. But the story, I thought, was really solid, really good, and they sold it really well, which was Undertaker was barely alive, just completely and almost utterly destroyed, and then he got the Gogoplata, Devil's Ride, or whatever the fuck they call it.
Hell's Gates.
Hell's Gate. So he got the submission out of nowhere, and it was almost a desperation move, and he tapped Triple H. Great. But again, I think that time management is really the problem for WrestleMania now. I was thinking back around this point to WrestleMania 20, because that's within the modern era of WrestleManias, and it was a 4-hour show, and people always complain, oh, it's a 4-hour show, and I get burnt out afterwards. Look at it. And I don't remember being burnt out at the end of WrestleMania 20, and I think I know why. If you look at the last third of WrestleMania 20, let's say from Angle Guerrero on up, I think that there were probably twice as many matches as compared to the last third of WrestleMania the past couple years. The last hour of WrestleMania last year was Cena, Batista, and Michaels Undertaker, both of which I loved, but that was pretty much the only part I loved of that WrestleMania. So like the last third or so. Now, look how much time has been eaten up on this WrestleMania so far with skits and entrances and whatever the hell else they're wasting their time with. I mean, like I said, entrances last longer than matches. See the 8-man tag. They cut the U.S. title match. So even without the Money in the Bank, which I did not miss, still so much time is taken up. That's my thing. Time management, I think, is their problem. And, of course, some reports now are saying that Vince McMahon was changing match orders and schedules the last second, all weekend, whatever. I still think that they just forgot how to schedule a wrestling show. It's all how you use the time. WrestleMania 7 had probably twice as many matches as this, and they did not run short shows back then either. Either, whichever. So, time management balanced out with a good match. Undertaker Triple H, I enjoyed it. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, match of the night, a lot of great drama, and I got to tell you, we were all there. How many times did some people in the room, Jay Leto, jumped off his seat when they thought the title was when it was actually going to happen?
You and I watched the documentary where Triple H said that Undertaker's streak should never end, and as much as we goof on him, I don't think that he would be stupid enough to do it. But people still, when they do those great near falls, are still thinking there's a possibility.
Yeah, really a great match. Told a great story, as these two do every time they're always out there. Great to see that the Undertaker looked weak, because when was the last time Undertaker was out on the stretcher like that? And it really made you think. A lot of people were very silent when Undertaker was down, because we have not seen that many times.
It was good. It just took too much time.
It took a little too much time, but they're trying to sell it, and then the next night on Raw, it really brought more to the story. Great match, very emotionally involved. The crowd always involved. I got to tell you, that streak is more important than anything else on that show. Any world title, if you build it right, that match is more important. His role, his streak is more important. And they built it to that right way. I did like the entrances. I did think that was really good. It's different. It's entertainment. It's something special. You don't see it all the time. And Undertaker is new, using Johnny Cash. Overall, it was a very good match, very good showing, and it's what a lot of WrestleMania matches should be like.
I mean, it was a good match. So long. I enjoyed the match until the ending. But I mean, I enjoyed it. But the thing was, like, why is everybody calling this match classic? I really don't see how it could be construed as a classic match. Like, if it was like a 1 out of 10, I would have probably given it like a 7 tops, more like a 6.5. But it was still, it was a good match. I was entertained. But at the ending, it was like the last 5 minutes, it seemed like it was all Triple H. And it's got like, really, Undertaker's that weak, that Triple H is that strong, that I have to buy that Triple H is that better. And like, it made it look like the Undertaker just got lucky at the end. I really didn't like it too much. But that being said, I was happy the Undertaker won. It was a good match, except for the fact it took Undertaker a half hour to get into the back.
I don't agree with Will Brooks, by the way, at all. 6.25, that's a little low on my scale. There is a reason why he was weak. There is a reason why he was weak. It shows that he's getting to that point that he's not going to be around much longer and that he could lose. That was the whole point, and it's going to continue that way for next year's Mania because it's going to be the same scenario. And I think to make you believe the Undertaker might actually lose it. So I understand why they did it. Triple H looks strong because he's younger. He's a lot stronger than the other ones, than Undertaker is. And it's a reverse of what happened last year, where Shawn Michaels looked weak compared to Undertaker, and now this year Triple H looks stronger. There's a reason why they did that.
I look at it more, though, that's more that Triple H just doesn't want to look bad. Like, he doesn't want to take the loss like that. He just wants to make it look like he's really strong, and the Undertaker got lucky. But, you know, we all interpret it all different ways, so it's okay.
Joe from Las Vegas is begging for me to put him on in the chat room, so you're on, Joe.
Oh, my God. You have got to be kidding me. I just heard that Sheamus and Daniel Bryan got cut, and you're giving Michael Cole and Steve Austin a half an hour. You're giving Layla and Michelle McCool time on this with Snooki from the Jersey Shore, and you can't get Daniel Bryan and Sheamus or the Core or anybody on the other side of that more than a minute and a half on the entire show. That is an abomination, and that pisses me off. But I'm glad I didn't watch WrestleMania.
Well, Sheamus, it was a particular, I think, bad move considering he was on the cover of Muscle and Fitness this week. I saw it at the Atlanta airport. And driving around Atlanta, I also heard that they were giving away tickets still, or tickets were still available on the commercials that were airing just the day before or 2 days before, too. Tickets still available on these radio ads, and even Rock was tweeting about tickets giving away. That was just interesting. Corey, your thoughts on Undertaker and Triple H?
I didn't think that Undertaker's match this year was nearly as good as the one he had with Triple H at 17. I think they went too far with trying to make Triple H look stronger than he is.
Well, I think that's fine, and like I said, I think that this story was better. That's just me.
I have to disagree. I really didn't like the story. See, with 17, we had, 2-3 months worth of a storyline between those two, and it was great, and that match was awesome. But this
one didn't have a cushion for him to get choke slammed on.
No. And they spent a lot more time on the canvas hurt. And I really hated the spot where Triple H takes a chair and smacks Undertaker in the head with it. I really do believe that if there was any time for them to keep up with the do not chair shot people in the head rule, that would be it.
Undertaker put his hands up.
True, but I think it was enough that it did take something out of him. I know the WWE is going to dispute this right now, but it looked to me as though Taker was a little more
He didn't say anything when Kevin Steen did it to El Generico in New York.
That was sick. The ending of the match wasn't that great. I'm glad Taker won. He's the one I was rooting for the whole time. But that was really scary when Taker couldn't get back up on his own. I didn't like that at all.
Scary? It was the fucking story.
It didn't make any sense. You want to tell me that Triple H...
It made no sense. He just smashed him in the head with a chair. He's just trying to hurt him. And he did a good job of it. It was kind of reminiscent of Austin Rock at 17 when Austin could not beat The Rock and he just beat him down with a chair as hard as he could. They kind of did the same spot here, and I think it just really helped the story.
I didn't like that. That was not a good visual. I usually like...
All right.
I like it when they end WrestleMania with Undertaker looking as strong as possible. I like that.
Don't you think this accomplished two things at once? The streak is still alive, and Triple H looks good. I know you don't want Triple H to look good, but I think this story worked.
I don't know. I really thought that their match at 17 was better. That was way more exciting.
Well, at least 17 was definitely faster paced than this one. So moving along, Joe from Las Vegas mentioned Snooki. And I want to move on to the other multi-person tag. I guess the bathroom break match. See, this is what I don't like about the structuring of WrestleMania now. They always put a women's match or some shit in between two of the bigger matches to give people a chance to come down. Because they say wrestling is like a roller coaster. You bring them up, you bring them down. Then you bring them higher and bring them down. I don't agree with that at all. My roller coaster is ascending all the way up, and then you bring them down. People hate Vince Russo, but you look at WrestleMania 14, like I said, that's the standard of how to book a WrestleMania to me. What's the match before the main event? It ain't some women's match or some match to bring you down. It's Undertaker-Kane, the second most hyped match of the night. Even though they were doing it, in the days before Vince Russo, where Snuka and Rick Rude is before the main event at 6, or Bounty and Santana is before Hogan Slaughter at 7. I think Russo had it right in 1998, so whatever. Let's get to the multi-person tag match. Trish Stratus coming back and looking hotter than ever, I might add. I was never really into Trish, frankly. I know I'm alone in that, but I'm not a big blonde guy. However, when she turned heel in 2004, if you remember when she was with Tomko and Christian, she was women's champion. I think they did an injury angle with Viscera or Big Daddy V, whatever, and she came back after getting into yoga. Her body got streamlined. She looked so fucking hot. Then I understood, especially with this brunette hair now. Oh, my God, she looked incredible. And John Morrison, people were complaining, oh, he's stuck in this match with Snooki. You know what? If I was on WWE's roster, I'd want to be in fucking Snooki's match because this is the match that was going to get them publicity. I'd want to be seen when people are looking at this shit. And you know what? This guy got like a 5 or 6 figure payday for doing one move in like a 2-minute match. Although, if they put as much time into actually coming up with storylines and pushing him as they do for nicknames, I think he'd gone a little further. That being said, it was him, Trish, and Snooki against Lay Cool and Dolph Ziggler. I'd like everyone to keep it in mind that Drew Carey was inducted in WWE's Hall of Fame for about a minute's worth of work and doing absolutely nothing. So I think that guarantees Snooki's future involvement in the Hall of Fame because she pulled off her move rather well. It was structured perfectly. Obviously, she's not trained. Obviously, she's barely even a celebrity, let alone an athlete or whatever. But, hey, Will Vafita has pointed out to me she's a gymnast, so she pulled off her gymnastics moves perfectly fine. And like I said, that's more than Drew Carey did, so I say Snooki, Hall of Fame next year. What do you guys think of this match? Will Brooks.
I'll give Snooki a lot of credit because I hate her, and I know the crowd hated her too, but she did do that backflip really, really well. So I gotta give
she
her
has a big ass, too. Between her and Vicky Guerrero, it was like the Badonkadonk Battle Royal.
Well, when she did the backflip, her shirt kind of went up. We saw all gut, which wasn't that good, but, whatever. And she did shortchange it, but then she's not a wrestler. So for not being a wrestler, she did really well. I'll give her a lot of credit.
I hate Jersey Shore as much as anybody else with a brain does. So, I mean, I'm giving her credit regardless.
You guys saw me. I was fist pumping my way in that matchup. That crowd turned 180 around when that happened. The crowd was so impressed by that. Jim Ross even said, well, I can't pull that off. And she can. It was shocking. It was good. When I woke up this morning, I watched Channel News 5. And right away, they talk about sports. Snooki shows up right on there, even 2 days after Mania. And on TMZ today, this is exactly what WWE wanted. They wanted the exposure. You see Morrison, Snooki, and Trish holding their hands up high, and that everyone praised her on her work. So this is nothing but great publicity for them. She did a great job for the time that she was in the ring. It shocked everybody because no one knew she could do that. So who's seen her do that? No one.
This is about, and I've tried being fair and realistic as possible with my praise and criticism. However, any praise I think pretty much ends right here, as I alluded to earlier. WrestleMania, as whatever good it had in the middle portion, was bookended with 2 title matches and 2 bad outcomes. Unlike Alberto Del Rio and Edge, which some people were saying, maybe the wrong person won, but the match was good. I don't think anybody could make the argument that Miz Cena was good at all. First of all, this let's show Cena with as many black people as possible theme for his video was rather funny. I guess he really needs that street cred. And the Miz video was interesting, a little long. They could have cut it down, but I like the concept of flipping back and forth between the old clips of him and other wrestlers from the past who were champions and whatnot. But again, entrance upon entrance upon entrance. The match was short, I think rather bad, and I'm always a big defender of Cena. A lot of people have been saying Miz has grown a lot, and I think this main event did not deliver at all. Even before the double count-out finish where it looked like Cena cracked his face fucking open on the concrete, Miz got a concussion, it just really wasn't that good before that. And even if there were some kickouts of finishers and whatnot, I don't know if it was burnout by that point or the fact that they were running out of pay-per-view time. It seemed very rushed. I just did not enjoy pretty much anything, even after the double count-out, Rock starting the match back up, lasting a minute. See, it's pretty much the same idea as 2000, where the heel wins, but then Rock beats up somebody to make up for it with everyone going happy. Didn't work on me. So let's not even get into Raw the next night just yet. Just the way WrestleMania ended with this main event segment. What did everyone think? Will Vafitas.
Predictable is probably the best word I could say, because everyone pretty much knew The Rock was going to be able to get his hands on Cena and cost him the match. I knew that was coming, and I knew The Miz was going to win. All of you people doubted me, and you're all wrong, because Miz is still your WWE champion, whether you like it or not. And the video package, I loved Miz's. It pretty much summed up his whole personality, his whole concept of who he is. Especially if you haven't watched any wrestling over the last year, and you watch the video, at least Miz, it shows who he is. You know, it shows where he came from.
But do you really think that him winning was the right thing to do?
Like I said, yes, I do. What was Cena going to do with that belt that he hasn't done before?
What else does he need to do?
No, it does absolutely nothing for the belt. If Miz keeps his title, and I think he's going to keep it for a long time, they're definitely investing in this character that the Miz is doing. He's getting a media publicity. He's getting WWE out there. He's awesome. Thank you, whoever said that in the chat room.
He may be, but don't you think a lot of these people, because I've heard this a lot myself, who might not be aware of this when they find out that this, wasn't he on the MTV, that this reality guy's the champion? Don't they look at that as a joke?
No, I don't. If you see that video package, I think that pretty much sums it up. I think if they saw that, I even said right there in the room, I thought it was a great video package to pretty much say, yeah, he was this guy on the real world, and he keeps switching the channels, going back to old WrestleManias, going back to The Miz, showing that he thinks he's a joke. The only thing I didn't like was that he didn't get a credible win, which I think he needed. So,
no, he doesn't. He's a heel. He's not supposed to have a credible win.
I know that, but he's never really won any match without having – he needs a credible win at some point, even though he's a heel. He needs to beat a guy without having interference. There's always got to be a heel that does it at some point. There's always got to be that time where you need to have a heel win against a guy. He can cheat during the match, but he wins, like, convincingly, I would say is a better word. This one was where The Rock interfered. He knew he was going to get on Cena, and then he attacked Miz at the end. It almost looked like he helped The Miz, and then he attacked him anyway, which, like I said, was a weird ending. The ending wasn't that good. It was confusing because I think all of us in the room were like, really? That's the ending? We were all a little bit confused on the ending, I think.
I agree with Will. It was a really cool video package. I enjoyed it a lot because I don't watch the real world, and when Miz first got into WWE, I really wasn't watching, so I didn't see all of his earlier stuff. I kind of got in it back into wrestling when he was with Morrison, the tag champions on ECW. As far as the match goes, the match was okay. I didn't hate it, but it's just the thing that sucked about the match. The whole crowd was dead for it. So it's like, how could you get into it if the crowd wasn't even into it? It's kind of hard to do so. Somebody said in the room, it might have been Will actually said, like, of course the crowd should be dead. The Rock hasn't showed up yet. You know The Rock's going to be there, so.
Mm-hmm.
The ending, yes, the ending did kind of suck. You knew, like, The Rock was going to do something to fuck with Cena. I really was disappointed. Wasn't a great main event. Am I happy the Miz is still champion? It doesn't bother me because I like the Miz, but maybe I'm old school. But I always think the biggest face should always win at WrestleMania.
Right.
And I think that's the way it should be. That's the way I enjoy it. And yes, isn't it predictable? Yes, but no, who cares? It's a show. Sometimes your favorite movies, I can predict the ending to movies all the time. So people hate going to movie theaters with me because of that reason. But you know what? I still enjoy seeing movies because of that. To me, it would have been a big deal if John Cena won, him being the face champion. Because he deserves it.
We've already covered WrestleMania, the True Story documentary, which is available on Netflix. And incidentally, I was saying that if you're a movie buff, you should have Netflix, which I consider myself. But they've also got a lot of WWE documentaries on there now, so you don't have to buy the DVD. The Big Show documentary, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and several others that I'm going to have to check out sometime. Netflix. It's wonderful. And once they start making even more things available for instant stream, it's going to get even better. Then we moved on to Ring of Honor's Double Shot in Atlanta, their first tour there. Honor Takes Center Stage, which aired live on GoFightLive, iPPV, GoFightLive, partners of the Wrestling Roundtable. And the shows were largely pretty good. I wouldn't go so far myself to say that they were the best Ring of Honor shows ever. I still think Glory by Honor 5 in New York is my favorite Ring of Honor show ever, and I could think of a few others, but that's not to say there wasn't a lot of great wrestling on these shows, because there definitely was. Wrestling's greatest tag team, Haas and Benjamin winning the tag titles from Kings of Wrestling, was pretty good, and lots of others. However, I do have to mention, there's a trend going on right now, and it's always these fucking indies that come up with these different annoying habits and trends, whether it's everyone doing double stomps and everyone doing Shining Wizards like years ago. Now it's, of course, everyone slapping their legs and chests or other people on whatever move they do. That's ultra annoying. But there's one other thing that I'd like to point out that just is such a pet peeve of mine. What is with this screaming your opponent's name, running across the ring if you're going to do an elbow on Claudio Castagnoli? Claudio! I don't get it. Like, Eddie Edwards is a good wrestler, and I enjoy his matches, but there was one match he just had recently where he screamed, I think it was Chris Daniels' name, 4 times in the course of one match. I just don't get it. Anyway, then we moved on to the big show of WrestleMania 27, and I think we had a fair and good talk. Now, when Fox News says that it's fair and balanced, I think that's the joke everyone's in on. Of course, sure they are. But I think that ours was actually fair and balanced. I think the criticism I made of bookending WrestleMania as it was with these non-title changes and time management being an issue really summed up WrestleMania, because some people were saying that this was just a glorified 4-hour Raw, this was the worst WrestleMania ever, and I certainly didn't feel that. I didn't agree with that. Didn't even come close, as a matter of fact. And I did enjoy the Triple H Undertaker match. Coriander Ake in Chicago, our radio panelist, you've got some more thoughts on WrestleMania you'd like to get across.
Well, I had a stopwatch with me. We had 101 minutes.
Typical smart Mark.
We had 101 minutes of wrestling in a 241-minute show.
Uh-huh.
That means that more than half of this show just went to sketches, these long entrances, these endless entrance videos. I think that was fiscally irresponsible of McMahon. I understand that he doesn't want to show a wrestling show anymore. Well, if that's the case, why did you bill this as WrestleMania? I think Kevin Steen made a pretty good joke on Twitter when he said next year we should call it Entertainmania, because McMahon really doesn't want to do wrestling anymore. It's irresponsible to charge fans $60 for a pay-per-view feed that has less than half of that show worth of wrestling. I think that Randy Orton and CM Punk had one of the better matches that night, and then the second best match would have to go to Undertaker Triple H. The rest of the matches, they felt too rushed. They felt just all over the place. And I really feel sorry for anybody who spent money on this. I think that this was a very fiscally irresponsible move by McMahon. So what do you guys think?
Well, we did argue in the chat room afterwards about the chair shot that Triple H landed on Undertaker. Of course, the story today is that they were both fined an undisclosed amount of money, even though Undertaker put his hand up. I figured that would have been fine enough, but that's the story. Now, of course, we don't have the details, so we don't know exactly how legitimate it is. This was printed on WWE's corporate website, but I hardly think that was something offensive and horrible, but you know how WWE is these days, firing Finlay, apologizing for Michael Cole using the word faggot on Twitter. They're just walking on eggshells with their Mattel deals and hopeful future run for the Senate for Linda McMahon. They just can't touch anything anymore. I mean, I don't want to use the word pussification, but I did complain about all this black and whiting going on 24/7 and on the DVD with Austin and the great shots of him bleeding at WrestleMania 13. It's getting kind of annoying. The next day after WrestleMania was a 4-hour block on USA Network for WWE, starting with the Hall of Fame ceremony. And before I get into the details of the Hall of Fame, we had a poll recently on WrestlingRoundtable.com about who do you think should be in the Hall of Fame the most. Of course, with the rumors last year of this being a WCW-themed Hall of Fame for Atlanta, which didn't come anywhere near to being fulfilled, the top person voted on in that poll by our viewers was Sting, of course. He came out recently and said that, yes, WWE approached me. I turned them down again because I saw how they treated WCW wrestlers, and I'm just not going to do it. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Will Brooks, Sting turning down WWE yet again.
He's a man of principle and just said, fuck McMahon, I won't work for you. Plain and simple.
I have to agree with Sting's decision to stay out of Hall of Fame, considering how the other WCW guys have been treated.
Oh, yeah, a lot of WCW guys have been treated badly. Like, I don't know, like Big Show, I don't know, like Chris Jericho, I don't know, like Chris Benoit. So, yeah, I guess WCW guys got real bad treatment. It's his own fault while he's not in the Hall of Fame, and he's an idiot for not going. It's a business decision to go there and be a part of something bigger. Why be on a brand that is not going anywhere and he has absolutely nothing to give to that company? WWE is the company he has to give to. Who cares? He's only going to be on TV for 2 months. How can his character get killed? It doesn't make any sense that he didn't take the decision to go to WWE when he had the opportunity. It makes absolutely no sense. And even guys like Kevin Nash and all that don't understand why he's not smart not to do it. What could possibly have happened to Sting that would have killed him? Ric Flair did not get killed in WWE. If you talk about the biggest names in WCW, none of them have gotten killed, not one. Goldberg is maybe the only person I could say that didn't get his run. That depends on how that relationship was. But other than that, I can't think of a top name in WCW that got killed.
It's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. If in TNA he gets to be champion, in WF he would have been beaten on WrestleMania by The Undertaker.
You think this thing is going to actually get over on The Undertaker? Come on, dude. To be honest,
I love
that would
Sting.
not work. It's about having the match. It's not about having anything else. You didn't think, you know. So, and Rock got over on Hogan on 18, and I was there live, and no one would have thought that would have happened, and it did.
I want to see the match just as much as the next guy, but if Sting doesn't want to work for McMahon, doesn't want it, doesn't care, then whatever then.
Then he will never be the biggest, and he'll never be a big name to anybody. That's why I don't, if you talk, yeah, I'm dead serious. If you don't work for WWE, you don't, that's the machine that powers you to get you out there in the main media. Where has Sting been in any media since he's been in TNA? Anywhere.
What makes you think he wants to? What makes you think he wants that? Who cares?
Then he isn't a big super. Then he's not a superstar, man.
Oh well, he's a wrestler. He's not a superstar. He's a wrestler. Who cares? If he doesn't want it, he doesn't get it. Oh well.
There's no point of being in pro wrestling if you don't want to be in the biggest company in the world, man. It makes no sense to me.
Well, he's different than you. He's different than us. He's different than everybody.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah, it's a real waste for him to go back to TNA at this point in his career. He could accomplish a lot more in WWE, and it would be huge. That being said, it's his life. He can do what he wants. I just feel like it was kind of a waste. Moving on to the program itself, the first thing I hear makes me want to just skip on my DVR as Animal says, I want to thank the big man upstairs for being in this entertainment business. Pretty much everything in that sentence made me sick. And I just skipped over to Paul Ellering because he was a lot easier to listen to. He was pretty cool. While I'm talking about this entertainment business, as Animal put it, I did mention earlier the Orwellian wordplay that McMahon uses, and it's really just getting ridiculous. We've heard, of course, if you've been on our message board and elsewhere, that they've changed their name from World Wrestling Entertainment to just WWE. And we all heard that story on the website for the TV listing that mentioned Drew Carey going into the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and they flipped their lid. We don't run wrestling shows. We run entertainment events. God, I hate euphemisms. It's such backtracking. It's trying to cover up something and distract shit. It pretty much destroys all the goodwill that I got back with that WrestleMania documentary. For the WrestleMania documentary to reinvigorate me into wanting to watch WrestleMania and get me to give the product a chance again and everything, then they just do all this shit that just unwinds it to me, because as much as they really want this mainstream acceptance, as McMahon is embarrassed to be a wrestling promoter and be in the wrestling business and all this stuff, well, I've always said wrestling is its own worst enemy. The reason it's got the stigmas it does is because of the way they operate themselves. And when you can't even call your roster wrestlers, they're superstars and divas, and the fans now are universe, and the fans are no fucking better because they're such fucking cheap. I can't believe how, and I'm all over YouTube, so I see this a lot. They just come up with this term, and everyone just copies it. As soon as they say we're going to have the WWE Fan Nation, and now everyone's something nation, universe, superstars, and it's repeated ad nauseum. Some of us on this show are guilty of it as well, but entertainment events instead of wrestling shows or wrestling events, it's too much. And when you hear guys like Bret Hart come back, who were before all this bullshit, at least to the degree that it is now, come back and say, it's great to see the WWE Universe, it just boils my blood. So I fast-forwarded through a lot of the Hall of Fame because really cutting it down to an hour is such an injustice, because a lot of it is obviously just edited and cut down, and it really takes away from it to me. So it's almost like it's barely even worth it, because just get the DVD. You can see everything unfiltered and the way it was meant to be, because you skip over legitimate wrestling names like Bullet Bob and Abdullah and Sonny for Drew Carey, who wasn't even inducted by Bob Barker. What the fuck happened with that? At least the Road Warriors deserve to be in there. And once again, the wordplay comes in with Shawn Michaels, when you just know CM Punk, when he's doing his talking head stuff, and he says he connected with the audience like no other entertainer. You just know that underneath all that, he's just like, well, fucking. Of course, the millions that he's getting certainly softens the blow. Let's see what you thought of the Hall of Fame ceremony. Wilva Fidesz.
The Road Warriors was great. From what we've heard online, Sonny was supposed to give the speech. Obviously, Drew Carey was put up there, and I'm sure a lot of it was edited because we got some cheers, and that didn't make any sense. I don't understand that. I understand why they do it. As a business person, I think it's a good idea. As a pro wrestler, I think it's stupid. As for Shawn Michaels goes, great speech. Of course, it's all cut down, so you definitely have to get the DVD to watch the whole thing. There's always great stories they tell on Hall of Fame.
Don't you think that this airing, because I've seen several airings of it, though, that cutting it down so much, just it's almost practically pointless? I
guess it's up to the network if they would like to have a 2-hour Hall of Fame instead of an hour. But again, you have to buy the DVD to see it. So again, they're giving you a preview, and then if you really want to watch like all the stories they tell and all the things they say, then you buy the DVD. I get that. It's satisfying enough to watch Shawn Michaels and the Road Warriors. Those are the two I wanted to see anyway. Sonny I wanted to see too. But that was kind of sad that got bumped off. But Shawn Michaels' speech was great. The clip comes out at the end. Great way to end the show. They had the DX music. The clip comes out with X-Pac and Kevin Nash. It was really nice to see that.
It was neat for a moment, but someone was very conspicuous by their absence.
If you have a serious issue with your drug or your alcohol problems, he kept himself away from there because apparently from what I read, that the environment would have probably done something bad for him.
In other words, he's too weak-willed to show up, pussy.
Yeah. Well, hey, you gotta respect the guy. The guy's trying to be sober up, and he's going to WrestleMania. What do you think
he's trying to be sober for like the 8th time in the past 10 years.
Hey, it's a hard thing to do. I'm sure it is. I've never been through it. I never smoked a day in my life, anything like that. But I'm sure it's tough for some people. But it's a shame because he would have made the full package.
Yeah, it would have been cool. It was neat seeing our favorite troublemakers back on stage all together. Before we move on from the Hall of Fame to other Monday night programming, let's go to some callers. Gerard from New Jersey, hello.
About the WWE Hall of Fame thing, I didn't think it was bad, but I kind of just fell asleep on it.
Ryan from Massachusetts.
I couldn't stop laughing. Kane in a suit. Nothing more can be said.
I think something more could be said. Drew Carey does not look healthy.
Homie got skinny like a motherfucker. I don't know what happened to him. Like, did he get staple stomach or something?
Jamal Reynolds in California. Hello.
Hello. Regarding Sting not going to the Hall of Fame, Sting not going through the WWE period, I'm just going to say loud and clear, screw Sting, because I haven't watched WCW in my entire life, and I don't plan to buy the DVD set or anything like that. And it's just frustrating going through years. Seeing...
How open-minded of you.
Forget it, open-minded. I know everyone wants to see Undertaker versus Sting. I want to see Sting in the WWE.
Well, if you have never seen Sting before, then why do you even care about seeing him fight Undertaker?
Because it's like one of those big names out of curiosity. You hear these big names. You hear names like Goldberg. You hear names like Hulk Hogan. I missed out Hulk Hogan when you guys started. I missed out Goldberg. But when they came to the WWE, I actually recognized why they were so famous, why they were so good. And I want to get that same thing for Sting. But he's not showing up at WWE. He wants to stay on TNA, the show that's not going to be on the level of WWE, show that pretty much no one's going to care for unless WWE buys it and exaggerates how great it is or whatever. It's just frustrating. It's like, can we just one match, Sting versus Undertaker, that's it. That's all I wanted to see. I can't think of a term for it. It's like...
Selfish?
Yeah, we'll run with that. It's selfish. Just put it simply, he's not Bruno Sammartino. He's Sting of WCW, a company that was a rival of WWF. Okay, it is true that WCW wrestlers were mistreated after the invasion in the WWE. Fine. But it's been a decade since invasion. Just show up for one night, for one match, Undertaker and Sting. That's it. That'll be it. Go in the Hall of Fame. More like Bret Hart went through, except hopefully they won't bastardize it with Vince McMahon involvement and all that crap.
That's one thing I wanted to bring up is that Bret Hart got screwed on pay-per-view, and yet Sting won't go in because he doesn't believe that Vince will treat him right. And I totally disagree with that. I mean, come on, Bret Hart came back, guys, after that big screw job. Trust me, the money was there. Sting just thinks he has an ego, and he didn't do it, and he sticks with a company that he believes in for whatever reason. It doesn't make any sense at all. To me, and my welfare and my name, you think you would go, and you don't. Goldberg did it. Hogan went to WCW. There's reasons why they did all that. And just Sting has some kind of a weird way of in his mind that he doesn't think he'll get treated right.
Do what you want to do. If he's his own man, make your own decisions, fight where you want to fight, and work where you want to work.
I think it's pretty clear. At this point, it's not looking like it's going to be for wrestling. But at some point, I'm pretty sure Sting will end up signing with WWE and getting the full Legends deal. And I'm expecting, like, just a Sting bonanza of when he finally does sign, maybe a few years down the line or who knows when, after he's done wrestling, he'll get the Hall of Fame induction, a DVD set, action figure, and he'll show up in the video games. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen at some point. But anyway, moving on to Monday night programming, and we'll get to more calls a little later on. Also on Monday night was also the last Ring of Honor on HDNet, and Coriander Ake, our indie fan, saw the last edition of ROH on HDNet, which featured only one match, which was the Kings of Wrestling teaming with Roderick Strong against Davey Richards and the Briscoes. So lots of video packages and not wrestling in this last show, Corey, but was it a good send-off for the series?
I think it was. I think it was a decent send-off. I would have liked it if there was an extra match. For what time that they had, it was pretty good. I liked the only match that we had, which of course was the tag team match. Davey won that by hitting a couple of different moves, an ankle lock on Davey Richards. That was pretty cool to watch. I'm not sure why he's been pulling out more of Kurt Angle's moves lately, but it really does work. It looked really good. I'm really sad to see this show go, and I hope that they can get another network soon. They showed a surprising number of wrestlers that are no longer there. They showed Desmond Wolfe, who used to be Nigel McGuinness. They showed Bryan. They showed Tyler Black. They showed Austin Aries and Jimmy Jacobs. So
you're on a first-name basis with Bryan Danielson now?
Oh, hush you. They showed a lot.
No, I'm serious, Corey, because a lot of people listening might not know Ring of Honor. They may not know who you mean.
Oh, well, they call him Daniel Bryan now, right? It's not that different. But they showed a lot of different wrestlers.
You could have meant Brian Christopher for all they know, Corey.
No, he's in the hospital. They showed a lot of wrestlers that don't work there anymore, and then they started segueing towards the newer content, which I thought was actually quite tasteful. The video packages were done very tasteful, and I'm glad to say that most of them have hit YouTube. And Ring of Honor has been posting one of the main video packages on their website. And you should give it a try. It's a really nice package, very tastefully done.
Okay, well, let's move on to what else was on Monday night, and that, of course, was Raw the day after WrestleMania. It used to be such a big thing. People always looking forward to see the Raw after WrestleMania. There's been so many big moments. And this one opened up with Triple H, I guess, gloating about his pay-per-view performance against The Undertaker. He may have lost the match, but he took out The Undertaker. I guess Undertaker's going to be out as long as he needs to heal up as best he can, I suppose. Maybe they'll just restart this up again once he does come back. But what'd you guys think of Triple H's promo, Will Vafides?
I like the promo. It sets up this feud is not over. It was a great promo that he goes over and basically says, yeah, I beat his ass. I couldn't, but I still couldn't do it, and he has respect for him. But he throws in the end, when you're back, I'll be waiting for you. So you know that this will continue forward, however long it takes for him to recover. And what I've heard, Undertaker's fine. How long they want to play it out. And if they want to play it out till next year's WrestleMania, well, I guess they could just go down the Rock Cena road. But I like the promo overall. I thought it was really good, very impactful.
I have a question for you, Will Brooks. What is the point of the brand split anymore? Now, I've complained often that they do so many of these big super shows where everyone is on the same show. The SmackDown superstars are on this Raw too, that it's just so commonplace now. What's the point of the brand split anymore? And there were a lot of SmackDown wrestlers on this show. And not to jump ahead to the Sin Cara debut, but he was also on the SmackDown tapings for this week, so he was on both shows. I don't know if that counts. But you had Cody Rhodes teaming up with Punk against Rey Mysterio and Randy Orton. Alberto Del Rio was on this show, Sin Cara on both of them. If they just do like a whole month worth of this shit to build up to WrestleMania and then do it afterwards, again, I say, what is the point of the brand split anymore?
I don't know anymore either. For a while it worked, just to a certain degree at least. It doesn't seem like it's a point anymore if you're just going to keep like interchanging rosters like this. There's no point, and all it does is really just cut wrestling time, airtime for half your roster. I mean, half the roster doesn't even fight like on TV anymore. That's why they always use them for these stupid ass skits you see, like in the Snoop Dogg skit or like other shit you see backstage. It's like, well,
right.
That's what you use that guy for? You pay that guy how much money to do that? Really? Pay my ass half that much and I'll do it.
Well, I mentioned Sin Cara's debut, and a lot of people on our message board are very upset that this followed Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan, who did not get on pay-per-view because we've heard about how erratic Vince McMahon has been this weekend, changing things at the last minute, changing his mind, no one knows what he wants. And I think WrestleMania really showed that, especially I believe, that this is just what I felt watching it, how rushed the main event between Miz and Cena was. I mentioned that earlier, but I mean, even as it was airing live, I'm looking at the clock thinking, man, they don't have much TV time left. And it just seemed like they were scrambling. And not only did they cut the U.S. title match, they combined it with their other dark match. So I guess trying to kill two birds with one stone there, but they did the singles match proper, and everyone's like, oh, Bryan's buried and squashed. And those are two words that have been way overused on our message board lately. But they were really upset that Danielson was dismissed and squashed like this. And, of course, the focus segued afterwards into Sin Cara's debut. I was fully expecting Alberto Del Rio to win because what we were talking about, and by win I mean the day before at WrestleMania win the title, because what we were talking about before was I brought up the fact that WWE is doing monster fucking ratings in Mexico. So I figured, wow, Alberto Del Rio, who was a big name, Dos Caras Jr. in Mexico, if he gets the world title, and if they do a feud with Sin Cara, who was just Mystico, the big top name in Mexico, holy shit, that would be like reminiscent of the days when McMahon was taking WWF National in the 80s and squashing out all the other territories. It would pretty much be like that because they're already ahead as it is. If they put on SmackDown, which as at least it did when it was on the network channels, a sizable Spanish audience, if they put a world title feud together between Del Rio and Sin Cara, it certainly would cement them in Mexico. Looks like they're not doing that. It looks like Sin Cara is going to be in a U.S. title program with Sheamus. Not too bad, but what'd you guys think of his Spirit Squad-esque jump into the ring? I did not notice the trampoline or whatever it was until I rewound it back and caught it because that took me by surprise. And I was just like, wow, how did he do that? So I had to rewind it back and caught it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought that.
He jumped that high? Holy shit. How'd you think his debut came across, Will Valpidez?
I liked it. I thought the trampoline thing, good camera angle. All about the camera angle. I was like, wait a minute, did he just go to the top rope? The only people who know about that trampoline are the people who watch internet websites or who were at the arena. So they probably barely could even see it from some
Or
point.
DVR.
Or DVR, so if you can catch it. But I thought it was very good. I like going after Sheamus. We don't know if that's really what he's going to be doing.
Well, right,
now.
because he did show up at the SmackDown tapings as
that,
well, so who knows where it'll end up.
Exactly, so we don't know where it ends up. I mean, I think these run-ins are a good idea. Builds him up to do some really crazy moves and to make you wonder, well, when is this guy really actually going to have a match? I think it's going to be a good thing to have him keep running in. I think they're already selling his mask online, and he already has like a T-shirt made. So they're really going to be pushing him big time. This ain't no Daniel Bryan. This guy's going to be like a big star. And I'm looking forward to it.
I love the video packages they've been doing for him, too, especially the one that they aired before he showed up where he was wrestling in that ring with the temples and the lightning in the background. That was pretty cool. Did he do his moves okay? Did he make an impression, Will Brooks?
He definitely made an impression. I figured he actually jumped on a trampoline to get in the ring, too. I was like, there was no freaking way that guy did that. But But his jump off the top rope, though, that was incredible. He got some great height. I mean, Nate Robinson and the Celtics wish he could get that high. That was a really great jump.
I like Sin Cara's new outfit. I think that they chose the right color scheme for him. It looked really cool. The trampoline spot I kind of cringed at because he almost didn't clear that rope. So right there's a split second where I'm like, please don't be Shockmaster, please don't be Shockmaster. But after he cleared the rope, that was pretty cool.
He was fine.
I know, but it could have been different.
As if they probably didn't practice that a whole shitload before the doors opened.
I kind of wish that they had debuted him a little bit sooner, maybe before or at WrestleMania, but he looked really good, and the crowd seemed really behind him. It's a shame that nobody really remembers much about that match now. People remember Sheamus was the one that took Sin Cara's attack, but they're not going to remember that Bryan was in that 4-minute match.
Isn't it more important for them to focus on Sin Cara, which was the point?
I suppose so, but it's like all the other times that we've seen this with other wrestlers. Like, how many times have we seen Evan Bourne's matches overshadowed because somebody else makes a run-in?
Well, Evan Bourne, I think, knows his role in the company and does it well. Like, when they put him in there to get beat by Del Rio, to get Del Rio's heat back from the loss the night before, I mean, he just does such a great job of selling for these guys. Like, when he was on the top rope, obviously he's going to do the shooting star, and then Del Rio kicks him off, and he took that huge flip bump. Makes these guys look really good. So I think he knows what he's supposed to do, and he does it well.
I just don't think that's fair that this happened the way it did. Nobody is going to remember this match today. Nobody remembers this match come tomorrow. It's on YouTube right now. I feel Bryan's match completely got lost in the shuffle. But on the upswing, Sin Cara looked really good.
And that was the whole purpose. So did they pretty much accomplish their goal?
I suppose so.
She can never admit it.
Well, I'll admit, I feel as naive as I did when I believed the government when we were going into Iraq because they had weapons of mass destruction. Why did I let down my guard and believe the government? I always know better before and after, but that one time. And it makes me feel like it in a similar vein this time when McMahon had his investors meeting a few months ago about the previous quarter, and he proclaimed that this WrestleMania is going to focus on the youth movement, and there's going to be new faces in the title matches that haven't been there before. Well, technically he was right for title matches at WrestleMania, but they didn't look very good coming out of it. I don't think they were the stars coming out of it. And this continued the next day. Why is it that this youth movement WrestleMania, as it was supposed to be, that the stars were Austin, Rock, Undertaker, etc., so the whole Tough Enough segment where Austin brought out all the rookies, or whatever they're calling them, I guess rookies is an NXT thing, and then ends with Austin and Miz and the brawl or whatever. How'd you think that whole Austin-Miz segment came off, Will Vafita is?
It definitely took a little bit longer than it probably needed to be. That's for sure. I definitely liked the Miz interaction. He didn't get much on the show. I liked it. It showed a little tease that they want Austin to return to the ring. I think that was really nice. The attack was good. I don't think people really, in that crowd really cared much about the Tough Enough, but they're trying to put it over. They got to make you watch. And apparently it worked because the ratings were really good. The segment was a little longer than it should have been, but I didn't mind it. I liked it. I'm an Austin mark, so anything he does, I'm going to like.
Just like Hogan and the leg drop, Stone Cold Steve Austin stunning the biggest heel in the company will never get old to me. Even if the promo is too long, and even if it goes on, like, I don't know, it's boring, Austin stunning someone will always make everything better.
See, I disagree there, because when he was playing his sheriff role in 2003, obviously you would think the intention where you put him in there with Lance Storm, and you put him in there with Rene Dupree, and you put him in there with, I don't know, Rico or whatever the fuck. You'd think the idea would be to get the rub from Austin, but instead he just sucked the heat out of whoever he was in there with.
Actually, it had that exact effect. Between WrestleMania and Raw, the WWE have done a very good job of decimating whatever heat potential Miz had. And that's a shame considering how badly they pushed him as their top heel. But these last 2 days between The Rock and Stone Cold, nobody's going to buy that The Miz is this tough guy heel now. Nobody's going to buy it at all.
He wasn't supposed to be a tough guy heel. Let's clear that up.
He looks more weak than ever now. This is actually making him weaker than when he was Alex Riley's boyfriend. I really don't think the crowd got into it as much as they could have. I think in the long run, this is going to hurt Miz in the main event realm. I really do.
Hunky Tonk Man had the longest reigning Intercontinental Championship run of all time, as he constantly reminds us, and he looked weak as shit the entire time. That got him great heat to the point where when Warrior finally did beat him, it was pretty big. But I don't understand why people are still saying Miz should have gotten a clean win. Miz should have some credibility. Miz should do this. He's not fucking Brock Lesnar. He's not the Undertaker from 1991. He's the fucking Miz, the reality star, the scheming little shit. So I think it's perfectly fine for him to be cheating and not have clean wins and get all this help or whatever. Yeah, part of his character is he had overcame all this adversity and he finally made it, proved all the people wrong. Yeah, I'm great. I just think he's just fine the way he is. I'm just talking about the spotlight per se. And I think when you put people like Rock and Austin in there with him, instead of getting him the rub, it just takes the focus away from him and just puts it completely on those guys. WrestleMania led into Raw the next night, specifically with Rock and Cena, so let's talk about that. They set up the main event of WrestleMania 28 a year ahead of time, going to be in Miami, Rock's hometown. We pretty much knew Rock would be involved. People were expecting Cena to fight Undertaker for his 20th win at WrestleMania, but no, Rock and Cena. So I was not expecting Rock to actually wrestle at any point. So even though it's not this year, I was wrong about that. Everyone was pretty much right, and I thought they were all absurd to get their hopes up. I was not going to get my hopes up, but that being said, Rock Cena next year. What do you guys think about them setting up this match a year ahead of time? Highly unusual.
I love this idea. I really do. Why not give this a shot? Because this is as long
I can think
as
of a few reasons, but I want to hear yours.
Okay, well, my reasoning is it's a build-up to a feud that makes sense. They can throw it in from time to time. They have to build this up right. They have to plan this out now from a year out. If they can plan it now and not think of it last minute, I think it can go great. It makes you want to wait and buy WrestleMania 28. It's going to do it. People want to see The Rock wrestle. You're going to see it next year. So
I'll tell you what, people have been busting my balls for years that I've been in the town wherever WrestleMania is and I've never gone to WrestleMania. And the fact that Cena and Rock are wrestling next year makes me actually want to go. And here I was all ready to give up on WWE again because I was sorely disappointed with this WrestleMania as far as what it was supposed to accomplish, allegedly, with this youth movement stuff. Triple H, Undertaker are not young. Rock, Austin, those sort of guys getting the spotlight, and Edge keeping the title, etc., didn't exactly accentuate any of these new stars to me. So I think if it was supposed to be the youth movement WrestleMania, it was an epic fail. But Cena Rock next year, of course, is the dream match everyone would want. But I just find it odd that they would set it up that way. It's because we're going to be waiting this whole time for a year. Doesn't it kind of make everything Cena's going to be doing until then kind of meaningless? Don't you think it would have been more organic if they had some sort of brawl, some sort of thing that maybe they could build on later in the year and maybe several months out of WrestleMania, which was going to sell out anyway, as WrestleMania always does?
Yeah.
Don't you think it could have been a little more authentic in that sense? Because I can't imagine any other point in history. Like, could you imagine at WrestleMania 4, Hogan saying to Savage, hey, brother, I want to challenge you for the belt, but wait a year? It just seemed like, all right, I accept your challenge in 365 more days. It just seemed odd to me.
Rock understands this is the biggest match that we have probably going to see in the next couple of years. We haven't seen a big match like this. And I think me is going to be all over it. This is the Warrior. This is like the Hulk Hogan versus The Rock at 18. It's that hyped up that I think it's going to work. I think as long as no one gets hurt, we're going to see a good year of way to build up. And this is not. This is.
How do you know Rock's just not going to disappear for another year until the next one?
He's not. He's going to appear from time to time. This is why he said I'm back for good, because he's going to appear from time to time. Maybe not in person, maybe in video form, but he'll be there. We still have SummerSlam in LA. He's probably going to be there. There's going to be times he's going to show up, and I feel that this will work. This has never been done before. We can't bust it when we have to see what happens. We can't say this is not going to work when this has never been done before. So
fine, and I agree with that. It certainly hasn't ever been done before, so I'm interested to see how they do it. But all I can think about is, what is Cena going to do for another year? I don't think this means he should even compete in the Rumble, because what's the point? He's not going to use the title shot, et cetera, et cetera.
We've always talked about how sometimes Angle's gone on so long that the wife doesn't know what to do with him anymore, like he's not his general manager.
Right, and I'm all for setting things up well ahead of time, but this is just, I think, a very unusual way of doing it.
Too much, and again, like you said, what is Cena going to do this next year that I'm going to actually I'm going to be interested in doing? And if he goes to the Royal Rumble, then the Vice Production's going to fuck up, and they're going to put him in the Royal Rumble, and the whole time he's going to be like the last two guys, and we're like, well, we know he can't win, or if he does win, we're not going to use it, so what's the point? So, yeah, everything he does from now on is really going to be meaningless. I'm not going to care. And again, like, I think they're going to drop the ball on it because they drop the ball on everything they do. So, I don't know. I'm really not for it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a cool match, but at the moment, doesn't seem like a great idea. They should have waited at least till SummerSlam to do something like that.
Are we supposed to care about anything Cena does in the interim, whether he wins the title and makes it a title match or not? This is just something different than anything they've ever done, and not quite sure what to make of it.
I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm shocked. I think they should have had this match at WrestleMania 27. Instead, they're going to make us wait a whole extra year.
People have been saying that, and I could see that, where they're upset in the sense, I mean, some people are saying that it was a glorified 4-hour Raw. Like I said, I wouldn't go that far, but I could see how you'd be upset to spend your money on a pay-per-view setting up the same pay-per-view next year, essentially.
Yeah, that's, again, fiscally irresponsible. A lot can happen in a year. Cena is very, very injury-prone. How many times?
I wouldn't say very, very. He's not Ahmed Johnson.
Well, yeah, but think about how many different pay-per-views that Cena's had to be emergency written off of because he had a neck injury or he had this injury or that injury. He is not Superman. He can get injured. He might get injured again very soon if he isn't already. We can't be sure that The Rock is going to keep his word this time and stick around in the WWE for a whole year. I mean, how many times has The Rock said, "The Rock is here to stay," only for him to turn tail and run away the next time Mickey Mouse calls and says, "Hi, everybody," and gives him a new movie?
You really think The Rock would make a commitment for a match a year ahead of time and not go through with it?
And he went on Jay Leno and talked about it as well.
I don't know. I think
Rock knows exactly what he's doing, so I think that's way off base. But that being said, yeah, injuries can happen. I just find the whole idea silly that two guys are in a confrontation. What's the thing you usually hear? Let's settle this right now. Who the hell says, let's settle it a year from now?
When The Rock came out on Raw, I was on my Twitter, and a lot of people were speculating that they would have this match at SummerSlam. But you're making us wait all the way till WrestleMania 28?
Well, why the hell would they do it at SummerSlam when WrestleMania next year is in Miami? It'd be one thing if he was still the Hollywood-esque heel from 2003. I mean, he did say, let's do it on the biggest stage possible. But he could have done, a slightly heel sort of thing, saying, like, The Rock doesn't perform on just any pay-per-view. He's going to perform on the biggest stage. I think he could have emphasized that a little more to get that across.
It puts a lot of face on Cena and makes Rock a little heel. So in that way, because it's a good point. Who says I'm going to fight you, but I'm going to wait a year until I'm ready? So but it's kind of like a heelish way. So in a way, it gets Cena over a little bit more. Actually, I think in a way, because Cena's ready to go.
Right.
He's always, that's his motto. He's ready to go. But Rock's like, no, we ain't fighting. We're going to fight. We're going to fight in the biggest crowd possible.
If they went even further with any sort of heel things with The Rock, Cena's already getting mixed reactions as it is. If you get more mixed reactions for Rock, it'd be the closest thing I think we would get to that Hogan Warrior sort of thing where it was like legit split crowd.
It's going to be a split crowd, but in Miami, it gives The Rock a little bit more of a rub, obviously, because he's going to be in front of Miami. But then again, WrestleMania fans come from all over the world.
What world do you live in where people are going to boo The Rock in favor of Cena, though? So Rock would have to, murder somebody in the middle of the ring and say, ha, I'm Hollywood, I can get away with this. Fuck you all.
Oh, please, Austin beat his wife. That didn't change anybody's mind.
No matter what, Cena's going to be the heel in this match, whether he wants to be or not.
He's not a heel, though. That's the point.
Yeah,
he's
but he will be booed like one, though.
Doesn't matter, but that doesn't make him a heel.
Getting booed doesn't make you a heel?
No.
What's it do to you then?
The other thing that they're running a risk of, are the fans going to get sick of hearing about it? I mean, think about when Edge won Money in the Bank, right?
Oh, please, Corey, we're not going to be hearing this every single week, I don't think, for an entire year. I'm sure it'll crop up here and there, but I don't think that they're running the risk of making us sick of it.
Given their promos, I have to disagree on that one. I mean, think about when Edge had Money in the Bank. He made us wait for almost a year. By the time he finally won that belt, people were sick of him. People were like, oh, just give him the damn belt already. Shit, I don't even care who he beats.
No, that's not true.
You've got the risk there.
Yeah, I don't think people were thinking that about Edge.
Yeah, I think you're the only one that thinks all this stuff up.
No,
I think it's serious. They're going to drop the ball on it like they dropped the ball on everything else, you know?
That's another problem. They could do that.
Abe from Augusta, Georgia. Hello.
Hey, everyone.
What is on your mind, Abraham? I assume that's what Abe is short for.
Unfortunately, no, it's just Abe.
Odd.
But I know you're not the only one that thought that. But John Cena did like a cherry in that red shirt. Do y'all think that the Road Warriors announcement for the Hall of Fame should have been more than 6 days for WrestleMania?
Whose announcement for the Hall of Fame?
The Road Warriors. Yeah, because it was just 6 days. And I'm sitting there thinking, why didn't they announce it like right after Elimination Chamber or something? Like, it had a month in advance build since they were pretty big back in the day, and they are like the best sports drawing team all time.
Well, I mean, you're going on the presumption that they care that much about history. Now, Lawrence made the point on the show before, and it's a legit good point that they don't have to do this per se, but they do. So, yeah, that's nice, and it's nice that they do this for their roster of guys who have been there and guys who are there now. So it is nice in a way that at least we get some sort of acknowledgement about history, but we all know deep down the Hall of Fame is illegitimate. Drew Carey, everyone's bitching about, as I guess they should. But, I mean, even just wrestler-wise, we've done a show on the Hall of Fame, which you can get at WrestlingRoundtablePodcast.com. Thanks for maintaining that, Will Vafides, from our first season. And the first thing out of our mouths was, no Bruno, no Hall of Fame legitimacy. It's that simple, similar to the Sting situation, because Bruno Sammartino just made appearances at Wrestle Reunion this weekend, too, and it was supposed to be his last public appearance. And his whole thing is, I did not want to be associated with that company anymore because it just got so far away from what wrestling really was, and I did not like all this sex and the violence and the blah, blah, blah. And, of course, we all know that WWE doesn't do that anymore. That's a 13-year-old outdated idea. That being said, if he doesn't want to be in the Hall of Fame, that's his choice. That doesn't mean that WWF can't do the right thing and induct him, because you just fucking have to, in my opinion. So we all know that there's lots of key people who aren't in there, lots of dead ones and the live ones between Savage, Sammartino, etc. I hardly think that's the worst thing that they've done Hall of Fame-wise.
So while before WrestleMania was in Chicago, so they were going for timing. But yes, the Road Warriors did deserve better than 1 week's notice.
It wouldn't have made a difference. So it really doesn't make a difference. The show was on Monday before Raw. WrestleMania was there. They were shown on TV as inductees. They're on the website. What would have made the difference? Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Abdullah the Butcher, who's a huge name in wrestling history, was announced on the fucking internet.
Yeah.
I think they should have inducted the Road Warriors way sooner than this.
Well, certainly. They definitely should have years ago when they were in Chicago for WrestleMania.
That would have been more sentimental. That would have made more sense. And it's a big problem that they didn't. I think that they were a great tag team. I've seen them on the Indies and in WWE, and for a nanosecond in WCW. And I think that they should have been inducted a long, long time ago. Certainly, we should have at least heard about them before Drew Carey or, good Lord, Bob Uecker from last year.
Well, hey, at least they went first on the airing, and that video package was pretty awesome. Brian from Massachusetts, you're on again. Anything else on your mind? We just talked about Raw, and I think you wanted to come up for that, or I don't give a shit. Just talk.
As long as The Rock taps out to the SDF at WrestleMania, I'm going to go home happy, and I know I'm going to get shot in the back of the head by about 50 different people for saying that.
He should.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, some people say have him beat but don't have him out. I think you should tap. People are saying, yeah, let Cena pin the guy, but don't let him make Rock tap out. I say it'll need a
Why
lot
the
more.
fuck wouldn't they?
Yeah, that would be a sight to see, though.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Think of how huge it was when Triple H tapped out. I mean, a lot of people tapped, but when Triple H tapped out, that was one of the biggest moments of Cena's career.
Oh, I thought you meant when he tapped to Undertaker, because that was pretty big too.
Oh yeah, but that's the year.
Gerard from New Jersey, you wanted to come back on again.
About the Cena promo, I really liked it until they watched the core, but who cares about the core anymore? What the fuck was that? You know what to do. He completely killed any momentum that the core would have probably had. It was just basically a penis measuring match between Rock and Cena who could get their most finishes in. And it was just a complete squashing of the core.
Well, what I said was, couldn't they have made this Rock Cena thing a little more organic than just, let's fight a year from now? Couldn't they have done it where maybe someone takes out The Rock, so he's gone for a little bit, he comes back, start planting the seeds, so a few months out from WrestleMania, then it can be official. So, I mean, sure, have the plan, go for it, but the way they said, let's fight a year from now, I just thought odd. And then the core comes out. Couldn't the core have just taken out The Rock? I don't know. That whole thing was just weird and awkward, and I don't think it accomplished anything.
That's what happens when you book while writing with crayons.
I don't think Mania went off the way they wanted, and I think this was a rush kind of move to get people like, whoa, that was a weird announcement. And like I said, they're doing something they never did before. And again, we can't judge it until we watch a good 7 to 8 months and see what they do about it. It was just showing that they're trying to get their moves on top of the other. And I think at the end of the show, I think Michael Cole said it's a draw, meaning that these guys didn't really show one was better than the other. So I think that's what they're trying to do, is they're just going to keep building these guys up. And unfortunately, some wrestlers are going to have to take the hit for it.
I don't see why the core was even necessary at all. But,
no, they weren't. They weren't necessary. It could have been Zack Ryder. That would have been all right with me.
Well, that was Raw. And immediately after Raw was the season premiere, I guess, of the new Tough Enough. Now it's the Ultimate Fighter with Steve Austin, I guess, in the role of Dana White. And sure enough, they've got Ultimate Fighter-esque music with the dramatic cuts and the ridiculous lighting when Austin comes through the door with the backlight and the smoke and all this other dumb reality show shit.
Yes.
Well, I thought it was kind of cute to see the MIA reunion of G.I. Bro and Huge Erection. Hugh Morris looks fucking huge.
It was great.
Just a general blanket statement. The women are fucking horrible. No surprise.
I liked it. This is a concept that always was. I wish they didn't go away with it. Yeah.
Now, granted, they did do Tough Enough before the Ultimate Fighter, but
yes.
It just really seems to me like the Ultimate Fighter was such a huge instrument in making UFC what it is today that they kind of just are modeling it after that now. Don't you feel?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. But remember, if it wasn't for maybe also like something like Tough Enough, maybe UFC never would have had a concept like that. Because it basically, Tough Enough is Ultimate Fighter is a ripoff of that. That's just what it is. And they made it a lot better. And now WWE is doing their version of it. It did do very well in ratings. I think it will do good in ratings. It's going to be on 8 p.m. now, every night, right before Raw. So I think it's going to do good. I'm looking forward to it. I think there's some good talent on there. Stone Cold's character is really going to put it over. And it keeps Stone Cold in the wrestling scene a little bit. So that's always good. I think this is a good move. I think it's a great show. And we'll get to see some personality out of these kids because we don't see them on NXT, I can tell you that.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing M-Dog or Matt Cross or Matt, whatever the fuck his real name is. I only know his indie names because, of course, I knew him from Ring of Honor and et cetera. Matt the gymnast, him doing the flagpole and all that other stuff that you saw in those clips, backflips off the wall. Short, but he should do well, I think, because he's been wrestling a little while. But like I said, the women, oh my God, they're horrible. Especially when we were just talking earlier about the Joshi women's match from Ring of Honor with the Japanese women's wrestlers. And then you see these broads get in the ring, daintily running the ropes, pulling up their pants, and that Ariani girl or whatever said on her Twitter that she signed a developmental deal with WWF right after this show aired. That's absurd if it's true. But then you look at the other ones like Miss USA cheating. That should have been an automatic disqualification to me.
Controversy. Crazy.
I mean, we can't eliminate Miss USA on the first show, I suppose.
Nope.
Yes, we can. Watch me.
But then you look at 11 years was her nickname. 11 years. There's
years.
no
I like the
fucking
big
way.
things he gives them too.
There's no fucking way she's been wrestling 11 years. Now, she did say she took off 6, so that's more than half taken off right there. But I don't think she ever got trained. She was self-trained. Well, I don't think she even did that. Just seeing how she didn't even know the basics at all. Any other wrestling school, if this wasn't on TV, I think would have just been, you're a fucking liar, get the fuck out.
I have to agree with you. The women really didn't impress me too much. But like you just said, though, if someone came in there and said, I've been wrestling for 11 years and came in and did as bad as she did, she wouldn't have they wouldn't have told her to get the fuck out. They would have said, give me your money, and now I'm going to kick your ass in the ring for 2 hours. And that's it. As far as the guys go, I can't really tell who I like and I don't like. It's only been 1 episode. I just don't like the format they have. I liked it originally when it was just Joe Schmo off the street instead of, like, how they got, like, indie guys and everything. I kind of liked it better when it was just, like, it's when it made it seem like, hey, I could be on Tough Enough. You could be on Tough Enough. Wow, we could do this.
Building someone from the ground up.
Yes, exactly. Now it's exactly like the Ultimate Fighter, which is guys on the indie circuit who we're going to give them a break.
I just don't like the belts. I'm going to give you all a belt, and when you're eliminated, you hand it back to me. And they're making it like, this is what I'm fighting for, and it's the fucking toy belt. It looks silly to me.
I didn't hate it, but it did feel too much like an MTV show.
Well, it was an MTV show originally.
Yeah, so in that respect, it was a cute nod to the first Tough Enough, but the toy belts were ridiculous. This show did a good job of making Stone Cold and Bill DeMott look extra special assholey. I understand that this is not Powerpuff Girls. You do not need to be soft with these guys, but that doesn't give you a reason to be an asshole. There's a segment on the show
Obviously, you've never been to wrestling school.
Well, clearly not.
That's pretty clear. I have.
That's pretty much typical wrestling school, isn't it?
I also don't like the fact that there are indie guys and indie gals on this program. This should be something specifically for the Joe Blow average off the street. And instead, you've got a 9-year veteran like M-Dog 20, and you're treating him like he just rolled out of school this morning. I don't think that's respectful at all, and I think it portrays the WWE.
You know how they operate. They send people in developmental to Florida Championship Wrestling to do hip toss drills and all these other drills, and they essentially make them do it from the ground up. Silly as it is, this is not out of the norm for them.
True. It's something I don't agree with, though. I'm curious, though, to see where they go with this, because the first episode wasn't entirely bad. Like I said, I didn't hate it. I'm a little on the fence about Tough Enough, so I'm going to give it another chance next week. But I think they could have done a better job, and I also didn't like all the segments where they're at the house, and there's all that drama. Miss USA, she can go. I have to agree with you guys. The girls are just awful, absolutely awful. It's one thing if you don't know how to wrestle well. It's another thing entirely if you're just not fucking trying, and these idiots were just not fucking trying. And they had such bad attitudes.
I think Miss USA will be really good on the microphone, though. The way she was talking to the guys in the house, I think she can really go on a mic, though. She's been coached for that.
Maybe 13 years ago when they wouldn't bleep the word ass.
The girl who got eliminated, I had to agree with completely. I thought she was definitely the worst of the worst.
She cried. This girl was crying. And did you guys catch her winning statement? They asked the trainees, what is your favorite match? And this idiot looks at Stone Cold with the honesty of a child in her face.
Honesty, she was scrambling to think of something.
My favorite match was Alicia Fox versus Melina.
Hey, that's my favorite match, too. Don't rip.
If you're saying that in front of another wrestling fan, you'll probably get away with that. If you're saying that in front of Stone Cold Steve Austin...
What wrestling fan would let anyone get away with that?
Well,
you're right. You're right.
That's just like, that's fuck up.
If you say that in front of Booker T and Stone Cold Steve Austin, that's like saying, I quit. Just kick me out now.
No, it's not saying I quit. It's saying, obviously, I'm not a wrestling fan and I'm here for other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I can do anything. Please let me try for Tough Enough. I bet I know how some of these people got in.
That being said, as much as WWE is anti the W word now, shows like this, at the very least, I think you'd have to admit, do emphasize what it really does take to be a wrestler, not just in the punishment category, but even just knowing the basics, running the ropes, knowing how to fall, knowing how to lock up, just basic moves. And, of course, there's people from the indies and whatever. But when you take these people who, like this one we just mentioned, who clearly don't know, and try and build it from the ground up, it's not for everybody, is it?
No.
In that respect, Tough Enough is better than the other reality shows that WWE has tried to produce. Certainly, it's a little bit better than NXT. So that's
I don't even know if you. I don't think you could call that a reality show. Look, I've been at tapings for reality shows, so I know how fucking fake this shit is. They set up scenarios and they call them stories. Well, we'd like to have stories this week, and the story is going to be, and then they do fake shit, and then they air it as if it happened organically. And anyone with a basic shooting or video knowledge would be able to pick that out in and of itself. But I've seen it actually happen now myself, so I can tell you that sitting through shit where they put people in a house and all this other crap that you see on all these reality shows, at least on Ultimate Fighter, I know I'll see some fights at the end of the show, so at least I have that to look forward to. In this, I don't know, Rock showing up, Big Show showing up, that might be pretty cool, so I might check that out. But at least I could see some fights on Ultimate Fighter. So any more final thoughts on Tough Enough, anybody?
We should give it a shot. The first time they've been trying this in a while. It worked the first time. They did get at least one star out of it now that's still around. Let's just hope that this works because it doesn't...
I'm sure you're referring to The Miz, right?
No, actually I was referring to John Morrison.
Well, yeah, Miz didn't even win, so okay.
Yeah, well, I don't count that one because that one wasn't Tough Enough. That wasn't reality to me.
Well, no, it was Tough Enough, but I mean, by the time they got to the one that he was in, it was just a segment on SmackDown. It was barely even Tough Enough anymore.
That's why I don't compare it because that one was really ridiculous. I think it's a great show, and for someone who has been in the ring and does get in the ring, it's good to watch that show because it's what I've gone through. It's good to watch. If you really like wrestling and you want to know what it's like to be a wrestler, it's a good show to watch. You get to see it firsthand instead of paying to go watch it. Go see what these kids go through because it's the same every wrestling school.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for our extended 25th edition of Wrestling Roundtable Radio. Last year, we had our first show on Blog Talk Radio around this time for WrestleMania, and 25 shows later, thank you for joining us. It's been a good ride, and we're going forward with even more. Next time, we'll be back with lots of MMA talk. UFC Fight Night 24, The Ultimate Fighter with Junior Dos Santos and Brock Lesnar coaching, Strikeforce Diaz versus Daly, hopefully the best and worst debuts and returns in MMA, TNA Lockdown, and much more. It's going to be another stacked show. Next time here on blogtalkradio.com on Wrestling Roundtable Radio. So thanks to all the callers for calling in. Please join us on WrestlingRoundtable.com. Share, rate, comment, and subscribe wherever you are. Stick with us at WrestlingRoundtable.com. So much content, I swear, is coming within the next week or so. Tons of recaps, tons of columns. Also look for the 50th edition of Wrestling Roundtable on YouTube. It's going to be the WWF's Invasion from 2001 talk, an entire show dedicated to that. Lots of surprises on that show, face-wise, so be sure to check it out. And the links for everything, our store, where you can get Wrestling Roundtable t-shirts, Pro Wrestling Respect DVDs, bios, news, polls, sign up for the newsletter, columns, archives. A ton of recaps and columns are coming out on WrestlingRoundtable.com real soon. Sorry I haven't gotten to them all yet. I've been very backed up with all the work on the shows coming up, but tons of recaps. Even old ECW pay-per-views are covered, guest columns, lots of viewer content and new content. Everything is at WrestlingRoundtable.com, and also the links to our social networking sites. MySpace, while it still lasts. Facebook, we have 2 pages there, the fan page and the group page. Twitter, and, of course, you can listen to us on GoFightLive. Thanks to our partners over at GoFightLive for broadcasting us there as well. The chat room has Will Brooks every Monday night. Will Vafides keeps up WrestlingRoundtablePodcast.com, which features the archives of our entire show series, not just video. The entire first 49 shows, every radio show we've ever done. Every show you can take with you and listen on iTunes. If you go to the search box, type Wrestling Roundtable, and you will find it, thanks to Will Vafides. Also, while I'm at it, TLDWrestling.com, Will Vafides' site, CultMerch.com, or WrestlingRoadDiaries.com, where you can get the Wrestling Road Diaries. As I said, you can get all this on WrestlingRoundtable.com. So for the panel of Will Vafides, Will Brooks, Coriander Ake in Chicago, and thanks very much to all of our callers, I'm Eric Santamaria. Join us in a couple weeks for Wrestling Roundtable Radio.